podcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is TWiT.
Hi, this is Leo Laporte, and this is my Tech Guy podcast. This show originally aired on the Premier Networks on Sunday, February 27th, 2022. This is episode 1872. Enjoy. Don't forget, today is the last day to take the TWiT annual survey. We love hearing from you. We want to know more about you. It helps us sell advertising, helps us design shows, helps us tailor our programming to match your interests. If you would, just last time I'll ever ask you, till next year, go to twit.tv/survey22. And thanks in advance. The Tech Guy podcast is brought to you by Cashfly. Cashfly is giving away a complimentary detailed analysis of your current CDN bill and usage trends. See if you're overpaying 20% or more. Learn more at twit.cashfly.com. Well, hey, how are you today? Leo Laporte here, the Tech Guy. Time to talk computers, the internet, home theater, digital photography, smartphones, smart watches, all that jazz. 8888 Ask Leo. You know, all that stuff. Anything with a chip in it. Anything computery stuff. That's it. 8888 Ask Leo. That's the phone number. You can call that from the U.S. or Canada toll-free, because it's a toll-free number. 888 is toll-free. But if you're outside that area, if you're, I don't know, in the Ukraine, you can call. Just use Skype out. And I guess if you're in Russia, you can't, because the internet still working in Russia? Man, the technology folks are just, they're jumping in. Did you see the tweet from Mikhailo Fedorov, Vice Prime Minister of Ukraine and Minister of Digital Transformation of Ukraine, calling all hackers? The tweet reads, "We are creating an IT army. We need digital talents. All operational tasks will be given here." And he gives out a Telegram address. t.me/IT Army of, I think he left out a letter. It says Ukraine. I think he meant Ukraine. There'll be tasks for everyone. We continue to fight on the cyber front. The first task is on the channel for cyber specialists. Wow, it is Ukraine. No, it is. You know, now I'm thinking maybe I shouldn't have repeated that. I don't know. He is checked. He has a check. Is it a blue check? It's interesting. I probably wouldn't use Telegram for that. But Signal might be better. I hear that there is a lot of Signal messaging going on. That for sure. The Ruskies can't crack. Really fascinating situation there from a technology point of view. A great many of the technology companies you know and use and perhaps love either started in Ukraine or have programmers in Ukraine. As with most of the Eastern Bloc, there are a lot of very talented computer folk. Ukraine was where Grammarly was started. You know, the headquarters, I think, is in the U.S. now, but the programming team's still in Ukraine. I use a photo editor. I love it, called Luminar. That's from a company called Skylum in Ukraine. In fact, if you go to their website, they have a banner up at the top there with the Ukraine colors, the blue and gold, or gold and blue. And it says, "Save Ukraine, defend democracy." Wow. Skylum was proudly founded in Ukraine. Our core development center is based in Kyiv. At this harrowing time, unfortunately, we cannot guarantee on-time delivery of updates to Luminar Neo. Dudes, relax. It's okay. Don't worry about the software. It's okay. We understand. Nobody's going to be pounding on your door saying, "Where's that update?" No. You take care of yourselves. It's really interesting to watch. I mean, of course, you know, there's huge impact in in lives, and it's a horrible tragedy. However, just from the pure tech point of view, it's really interesting to see tech get involved. I think something like $17 million in Bitcoin has been donated. It's interesting. Russia might actually have to turn to Bitcoin because their financial system is being blocked by sanctions. And so this is one thing Bitcoin's good for, isn't it? Is bypassing the traditional financial system, the SWIFT system, the banking system, and just kind of person-to-person transfer. I don't think you can probably get a lot done that way. I don't know. Yesterday, the BBC reported millions in Bitcoin pouring into Ukraine, more than 4,000 donations. One donor giving $3 million in Bitcoin to an NGO. The official Twitter account of the Ukraine government yesterday posted a tweet, "Stand with the people of Ukraine now accepting cryptocurrency donations, Bitcoin, Ethereum, and USDT." It's fascinating how technology changes everything, even war. Now, we've talked before on the show about cyber warfare and the risks to us here in the U.S. and, of course, the risks to people in Ukraine and even in Russia. I expect a lot of cyber warfare to kind of crop up here and there. Ransomware. Hackers shut down a couple of weeks ago, shut down the Belarus railway system for some hours, hoping to slow the transport of Russian tanks and troops to the front line. I hate saying that word. On the other hand, Patreon has shut down a Ukrainian non-governmental organization, NGO, called Come Back Alive. They've been raising money for Ukrainian forces in conflict zones for 8 years now. The Patreon just noticed and shut them down, saying we don't allow Patreon to be used for funding weapons or military activity. I guess that's not unreasonable. But nowadays with crypto, you can just donate directly, right? In fact, the Ukraine government posted their Bitcoin wallet. Just all of the the humanities side. I want to say that first and foremost. That's really what matters, is the loss of life, the tragedy that's unfolding. It's also a little inspiring, I have to say. I'm a little inspired by the strength of the Ukraine people and standing up to this invasion. But all that aside, I think also very interesting how technology has changed all of this. It used to be the first thing you do is if you're invading a country, you go and you shut down the newspaper and the radio stations, right? Now, I guess you'd shut down the internet first of all. They have not been able to do that. They have not been able to do that. Japanese billionaire Hiroshi Mikitani donated 1 billion yen to Ukraine. That's about 8.7 million. I don't know if he did it through Bitcoin. I don't know. I mean, I guess, are the banks still operating? I guess. It kind of makes all of the video game warfare that people, you and I, have engaged in over the last decade or so kind of seem childish, I guess. Of course, the first thing you do is you shut down the radio and the newspapers, or you shut down the internet. The funny thing is, funny, not ha-ha, but an interesting thing is Russia has had to shut down Twitter in Russia. They don't want to hear any protests, and they can't control it, and so they just turned it off. Facebook too. Maybe that tells you something about the value of social media. We always talk about the negatives, the disinformation. The Russians have used Facebook and Twitter against us with disinformation campaigns. Yeah, but it goes both ways, doesn't it? Goes both ways. Facebook confirmed that Russia's media regulator, Roskomnadzor, said it would partly restrict Facebook because Facebook refuses to fact-check or stop fact-checking Russian state media. You mustn't say that. You mustn't. Now, remember, these autocratic regimes, China, Russia, have insisted, that companies like Twitter, Facebook, and Google have offices, local offices in country. That's so there's someone to arrest, someone to put in jail, someone to punish. Otherwise, they're overseas companies. And, of course, they've also demanded, you have to keep data in the country. We must have all data from all users. American companies like Microsoft have so far resisted that. In fact, it's one reason Facebook's being threatened in Europe. Facebook says, no, we want to keep it in the U.S. And the agreements, the Schrems agreements that were made with the European regulators, the regulators are now saying, no, this isn't working. Facebook's saying, fine, if that's how you feel, we'll leave Europe. I don't know if that's how long that's going to stay. Anyway, we don't have to talk about all of that. I like to think of this show as a little escape from the day-to-day news of the world. So, but it's interesting. 8888 Ask Leo, the phone number, 888-827-5536. Website, always free, always available to you with audio and video from the shows. Links to techguylabs.com. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. Don't call us from a payphone.
No.
That's
not a good idea.
No. First of all,
you're going to be on hold for a long time.
Where are you going to find a payphone?
Yeah.
And you got to bring a lot of dimes.
Yeah.
Do they still take dimes, payphones?
No, they probably take credit cards.
There are payphones in places. I know a guy.
I know a guy.
I know a guy who knows a guy.
All the good stories start with I know a guy.
I know a guy who, when the payphones just, everybody has cell phones. The payphones didn't seem to pay. Yeah. AT&T wanted to dump them all. He bought them all, and he put cell phones in them.
Oh, okay.
So they don't have to be wired to the network or anything. And he says, there's still lots of places, convenience stores and stuff where people don't have cell phones, and they, railroad stations, bus stations. And he makes a pretty good living going around, collecting the change from the payphones. And then he expanded out into frozen goods, but that's another story for another day. So
the ferry terminal had one for the longest time. And
he was able to.
When is this going to go away?
Buy these payphones for pennies on the dollar.
Oh, I'm sure.
Because AT&T said it's too much to maintain. We can't make any money on it.
So they just left him there. A lot of them.
Well, they sold they sold them to this guy. This is in the Bay Area. I don't think he owns them all over the country. Yeah. But he makes a handsome living.
But now he's in frozen goods.
Well, he's expanded because, so that's an interesting story, because it turned out the payphone business was really a logistics business. Mm-hmm. Knowing when the quarter bin is full and having somebody go out there to collect all the quarters, it's a logistics business. It's all about timing. Mm-hmm. And he realized I could do the same thing with frozen goods. He put these frozen goods in bodegas and convenience stores all over the area where they have little MEMS, micro-electromechanical machines in the feet that weigh the thing, and they know when they're running out of ice cream bars because it weighs less, and so it turns out it's all a logistics business. It's fascinating.
Nothing is really ever as it appears.
Nothing is as it appears. McDonald's is a real estate business.
Well, and Uber, that's not a car.
I don't know what there is no
a
business for Uber.
Yeah.
Uber is a business that loses billions a year. There is no business for Uber. That's not a business model. I can't wait. It's coming. Maybe it's there already, but they're doing a show about Travis Kalanick and the founding of Uber. That's the new thing now on HBO and Netflix.
Oh, yeah.
They're doing one for WeWork. Mm-hmm. And then they're going to do the Uber TV show. That should be interesting.
They are interesting. I
Yeah.
like stories about people.
Yeah.
Even when they drive me crazy, like the Tinder swindler.
Yeah. Did you watch that?
I did.
He's on Cameo now, in case you want to get him to do
infuriated.
a birthday greeting or anything. Hi, I'm the Tinder swindler.
And then the
Happy birthday
Anna
to Kim.
Delvey, the Inventing Anna girl.
That's a
too.
great
like,
show.
Just all these scammers
I love that
out
show.
there. It's disgusting that
So
people profit off.
Showtime is going to have the Uber show. It's called, I love the name, Super Pumped.
Super pumped.
Because I'm super pumped.
Okay.
Super pumped.
I'll look out for it.
Who should I talk to
Let's
first?
go to David in Orange.
Super pumped
He's
to talk
sick
to
of
David.
being scammed too.
Oh,
Or
I hate that.
Attempted scams.
No more scams.
No more scams.
You didn't fall for the Tinder swindler, did you?
No, I did not.
Maybe David did.
I was not on that show.
Thank you, Kim. Hi, David. Leo Laporte, the tech guy.
Oh, Leo, I hope you can help me.
Help me, Obi-Wan.
I want your advice. So every day I receive about a dozen email scams or from what they say are stores that are, it's an obvious scam because the name of the stores or whatever they're promoting is misspelled. The only option is to click unsubscribe, which I never do.
Never. Do not.
Never.
Because that's really not unsubscribe. That's let us know if there's a real person at this address, is what that button means.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So the odd thing about it, everyone gets scammed emails. These are all addressed to people that I don't know that have different URLs. Is it a URL that you call it, like different email accounts?
Yeah.
And I've called AT&T 5 times. I always get sent overseas where I can't understand them.
So these are email, and you have AT&T as your email provider? Is that,
yes.
Okay. Because we're also getting these as
And they
text
say
messages, which is even more annoying.
Fraud department.
Yeah. Look, no one has a department to fight spam. It's so prevalent. Generally, the best solution for spam is to use an email provider that has good spam filters. I'm guessing, who does AT&T use for their email? Is it Yahoo? Who's your email?
I believe it is Yahoo.
Yeah. So you might look at one of the reasons Gmail is so popular is they have pretty good spam filters. They do something that is effective, which is a sort of collaborative thing. What you would do is you'd see that, and AT&T Mail may have this. You'd see that and you go, yeah, right, that's spam. And there'd be a button on the window. You press the button that says spam. And what happens, at least at Gmail, is that collaborative filter. If they see, oh, yeah, this email, which we're sending out to millions of people, 350 of them said it's spam. It must be spam. It's much better than a computer. And so it's a pretty good spam filtration system. However, spammers have gotten so sophisticated, and it costs them almost nothing to send these out. So if the economics of it are, I send out 10 million junk email, and one person responds, great, because it only cost me a penny to send the 10 million. The economics of it are such that it's not going to go away. You can report it. I would, because that's helpful to any filters that they're using that are collaborative. Otherwise, you can write your own filters. For instance, I have a filter that says, if it comes from any country but the U.S., I don't want to see it, things like that. But there's not much you can do. We're all bombarded with spam. It got better for a while.
But why would it go to other people's emails?
Oh, because it's just random. It's all random. So they buy email addresses. They buy, millions of them, and they send it out. None of that's real. What the real payload there generally is either something attached to the email or a link that you click that takes you to a malware site. That's why you don't in any way open or look at these. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. Yeah. So is it in the email that you see a return address? Where is it you're seeing that?
No, there's no.
So where are you seeing other people's addresses?
It says like this one says Sam's Club to CXCVV.
Oh, the to address. Yeah, that's just random. That's garbage. None of it's meaningful. The return address isn't meaningful.
My name never shows up on anything.
No. How does it get to you, you're wondering?
And I would expect them to have a filter. And when I called 5 different times, they say there's nothing they could do. There's no filters that they offer.
That's interesting.
I've gone to the AT&T store also, and they don't know what to do.
No, we're all suffering from this.
Number.
Yeah. I mean, it's funny because do they smile at you when you go and say, "Can you do something about my spam?" Do they kind of snicker behind their hands?
Right. I just thought a major company like AT&T would have that feature where you mark it as spam, but they don't.
They don't have a button.
On their system.
That's really bad. Yeah. So that's one of the things Gmail does well. Although I used to put I've always had my own email address that wasn't Gmail, but I always passed my mail through Gmail because of the spam filtering, and I actually stopped doing that some years ago because it didn't seem to be as effective as it used to be. The spammers are just very, very good at getting around these filters. Somewhere your email address is in there, probably in the BCC field, so you can't see it. So the to address is a public address, but then, so one of the things you could do is use a filter. I don't know, have you played with the filters on your AT&T mail?
No.
So one of the things you could do, and I do this for sure, if the email isn't to Leo Laporte, like if it doesn't have in the to field my name, I put it somewhere else. I don't throw it away because maybe I'm CC'd on an important email from work or something. But if it's, I should be in the to field for me to pay attention to it. So that's one thing you could do right now. Because it's not, because you're in the CC, probably you're in the BCC fields. That's why you don't see your address. If you make a filter that says, what I do is, if it's in, this is what I do. I have one filter that says, if it's not in my contact list, if the sender is not in my contact list, put them in a secondary folder. And then if it's not to leo@leoville.com, then I say, put it in a secondary folder. I'll look at it sometime. I have an unimportant folder. I also have an important folder because if it's somebody in my contact list and it's addressed directly to me, then that's important. That's not going to be spam in most cases. You see? So filters are your best friend here. They're not going to do it for you. I mean, I'm surprised that Yahoo does not have some sort of spam filtering. That seems odd. And
it's so odd that these spammers don't even try to make it look authentic.
No, they don't care.
Just spill the name of the Sam's Club or
no, they don't even care.
Chase Bank.
It's cheap. And honestly, I heard somebody say, and this is interesting, that they do it that way, an ungrammatical, because anybody intelligent enough to catch them in that is probably not going to fall for whatever their scam is. They want people who are not paying attention. They're much, I don't know if this is true or not, but it wouldn't surprise me. They've got this perfect system feedback loop, right? They've sent out millions of these. They've been doing it for decades. So they know what works and what doesn't work. And as spam filters get better or people get more savvy, they change their tactics all the time. And so that's why it's very hard for what I would say is you do a whitelist and not a blacklist. You don't try to filter out spam. You just filter in stuff that is stuff you know you want. You know, if it's from my mom, I want to see it. I got to run. I've got Mr. Sam Abuelsamid here. It's car time. It's time for Sam Abuelsamid. He is a car guy through and through. Principal researcher at Guidehouse Insights. He does a podcast called Wheel Bearings at wheelbearings.media. He's worked for car companies. He's been my car guy for more than a decade. Hey, Sam, have you seen the new Uber show, Super Pumped, on Showtime? Have you seen that yet? I don't know if it's Sam, are you muted? I think you're muted, Sam. I got you turned.
Yes, there we go.
Oh,
sorry about that.
He was so quiet.
I wanted to make sure that I didn't make any noises that came through when it wasn't my turn. I have not watched Super Pump. I believe it debuts tonight.
Oh, maybe it's
Showtime.
tonight. Okay.
Yeah, I could be wrong.
It'll be interesting. It'll be interesting to hear the story. I wonder how accurate it'll be.
Yeah, I mean, if it's typical of a lot of these kind of bio things, I mean, there's only so much you can squeeze into 2 hours into a 2-hour movie.
Well, I'm sure this is I don't know.
Probably a lot of adaptation, a lot of combining multiple characters.
The only thing I have high hopes, it's the guys who created Billions, which is also a wonderful show on Showtime, and it's Joseph Gordon-Levitt as Travis Kalanick. Should be, you know what? It's going to be dishy. It's going to be gossipy. It's going to be full of stuff that you go, wow.
It'll almost certainly be entertaining.
Yeah.
How informative it'll be.
Yeah.
We'll see.
Yeah.
I'm not holding my breath.
There are plenty of good books if you want to read the story. There are plenty of books out there.
including Mike Isaac's book that this is based on, which was
it's based on Mike's book. Okay, good for Mike Isaac.
They optioned Mike's book.
Yeah.
So,
longtime tech reporter at the New York Times, and the book is called Super Pumped. So yeah. Okay. You're sitting in front of something I probably will never ride in. It looks like a shotgun shell, but supersized, so you could sit in it and then be shot through a tube at supersonic speeds.
Well, that was the idea that our friend Elon proposed back in 2013.
The Hyperloop.
But it's unlikely that anybody's ever going to ride in this thing. At least, not in any kind of widespread or commercial operations. There were a whole bunch of companies that popped up when Elon Musk first proposed the Hyperloop idea back in 2013, which was not in and of itself an entirely original idea. Concepts like this go back more than a century.
Really? I didn't know.
Oh yeah.
It's like a super fast train, right? I mean, but it's underground.
Basically, like the pneumatic tubes that you might remember from the bank.
Yeah, I don't want to be in a pneumatic tube. That sounds.
It's the same. It's the same basic concept. You got a vacuum tube. You put a little container in there, and it shoots off to some other place in the building. They're going
to have to accelerate slowly and decelerate slowly. Your brains will get scrambled.
Well, I mean, therein lies part of the problem. The concept was you have these vacuum tubes, hundreds of miles long, that pods would shoot through at speeds of up to almost 700 miles an hour. And he said, you could get from San Francisco to Los Angeles in 30 minutes.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, if you do the math and calculate it out, you do have to have a very high rate of acceleration and a very high rate of deceleration.
That's not good.
In order to achieve that, which is part of the problem.
Brain scrambling. Well, now he's got a new way, by the way. He posted this week a picture of, going to Sydney in half an hour from New York. I'm thinking it's not the Hyperloop. It must be rocket ships.
Yeah, I think that's probably his point-to-point rocket idea, which
Elon is,
has its own problems.
I gotta respect the guy though. He's thinking out of the box, right?
Well, I mean, it's more like a monkey throwing spaghetti at the wall. Anything that he puts up there, somebody will pursue it. And I mean the whole rocket thing. If you've ever been anywhere near a rocket launch, that's not something you want to experience on a regular basis, and because it's very, very, very loud. So to do point-to-point, so-called point-to-point rocket launches, you'd have to have launch pads, several miles away from urban centers. Perhaps like, some of the proposals he's had have been, out in harbors and things like that, which means that you've got the time it takes to get out there, get loaded up, send the thing off. Also, these things consume a lot of fossil fuels. His rockets run on methane. That's not
good. I thought they were clean.
No. All the SpaceX rockets run on liquid methane. So not exactly carbon neutral. And frankly, if you have to get somewhere on the other side of the planet in 30 minutes, just get on a Zoom call. It's ridiculous to try and have use rockets for that. But for the Hyperloop, the idea was you have these huge vacuum tubes and pods that float along on an electromagnetic cushion on rails, and you would shoot these things through at up to 700 miles an hour. And when he proposed the idea, he said, "This is not something I'm going to build, or Tesla's not going to build it, but I'm putting the idea out there. Anybody who wants to build it, go ahead." And a bunch of companies popped up, including one called Hyperloop Technologies, which was founded by
that's right. So he didn't
SpaceX engineer.
He didn't own the idea. He said, "This is a good idea. You should do it."
Yeah. And so, Hyperloop Technologies eventually became Hyperloop One, became Virgin Hyperloop One when Virgin bought controlling interest in it, and it's now Virgin Hyperloop. Well, this week, Virgin Hyperloop announced that they were laying off about half of their staff, and they were pivoting away from trying to carry people to focusing just on cargo.
That makes sense.
It turns out that shooting people through a tube at those kind of speeds is really hard.
Cargo could handle it, and that could reinvent.
It could.
Look at all those ships out in the harbor waiting to get unloaded. That could reinvent. You could, if you got one of these tubes under the ocean.
Right, which is something that Alex Lindsay talked about on MacBreak or TWiT years ago. That this would be the way to do it. Put these tubes under the ocean. But the thing you got to keep in mind is that these tubes have to be sealed, and you have to maintain a vacuum inside the tubes for this thing to work. So it's
hard to build
a lot of energy. Yeah, it's and so far, I mean, we've got a few prototype test tracks that run half a mile long, where they've been testing this stuff, and I think they've gotten some of these prototype pods up to a couple of 100 miles an hour. Virgin Hyperloop actually did a test in 2020 carrying passengers in one. They got it to about just over 100 miles an hour. Which is, not particularly impressive, but it was a first test. But realistically, I think this just isn't a very realistic proposition, especially compared to what you can do with things like high-speed rail, for example. You don't.
It's too bad Elon
these giant vacuum tubes
is sometimes. If he would just kind of calm down a little bit, post fewer memes on Twitter, and be a little more forthright in some of his marketing promises. Because, for instance, he announced that that Starlink is coming to Ukraine to keep them online, that they're setting more terminals out. And if I trusted him more, I'd be more likely to report that as a real story. But you just never know with Elon.
Yeah.
Right?
It's like the CPAP machines, the used CPAP machines that he bought in 2020 and sent to some hospitals saying, here's some ventilators for you.
Yeah.
Which was not exactly what they were looking for.
He's kind of a P.T. Barnum, but yet some of the things, I mean, look at SpaceX. Some of the things he does are genuine, are real. He transformed. I mean, if it weren't for Tesla, I don't think we'd be anywhere near where we are with EVs today.
No, absolutely.
But he's also a P.T. Barnum, and I wish he would knock off that side of it. But that's him.
Instead of going off and pursuing every idea, just focus.
Focus. Sam Abuelsamid, he's focused on cars. Thank you for joining us, Leo Laporte, the tech guy. and honestly, Starlink might not be the best solution in Ukraine because you can easily see who's using it. So it's maybe not the most anonymous of solutions.
Yeah.
So I don't know. You never know with Elon what's real, what's not real. You just.
Yeah, I mean, I absolutely give Tesla all the credit in the world for popularizing the idea of electric vehicles. I mean, they've
got me started. That was
legitimize. Yeah, they've done more to legitimize that concept than anybody.
Yeah, it was my first EV. Yeah. Now I'm all EV. We've got 3, none of them Teslas, but we've got 3.
Is Lisa's car still running?
It's working. It's great. She's back in love. So thank you for fixing it. I think we owe it to you.
I didn't do anything.
Well, I think you rattled a cage. You rattled the trees. Something fell out.
I mean, you've got a pretty loud platform yourself. So
I'm just very happy.
And and Lisa's got a follower or 2 on Twitter where she was.
She got them
being quite vocal about.
Yeah, she got them jumping, hopping.
Yeah.
And it's I like it. The Bolt's been great, although we still haven't got the battery replacement, but that's all right. We have to charge outside. That's a little weird, but I have to say the Mustang flawless. So, in fact, they said I just got an email saying I'm going to get Blue Cruise pretty soon as a beta tester. So,
sounds good.
Should be getting that update soon.
I was actually just driving another vehicle this week that has that on there, and we can talk about that next Sunday.
As soon as I get it, I'll let you know. I was hoping I'd get it before the show today, but I turned on the update timer and said, "Go ahead, anytime you want. Update."
Yeah, well, they've actually, Ford was working through some issues with their OTA platform.
I remember that
over the last several months.
But I think they must have, because I think they're now the beta testers are getting it, which means that they must have worked them out.
Yeah, they actually started shipping Mach-E's and F-150s from the factory, new ones,
with
build vehicles with it back in October.
Right. Yeah, I've been seeing people talk about it. Yeah.
But the people that got their vehicles prior to October have been still waiting for them to fix the OTA problems. So hopefully you'll get yours soon, and I'll be curious to hear your impressions of it. I've got some fairly strong feelings about it, which we can talk about next week.
Okay.
And,
okay.
I mean, it's got some real strengths to it and some real weaknesses to it.
Yeah.
And I think it will absolutely get better over the next coming months and years because they have that OTA capability now. But I'll want to hear what you think of it once you've had a chance to try it out and see how enamored you are with it.
Would you like to stick around at the top of the hour?
I can certainly do that.
Only if you wish. But if you wish, you'd be welcome to do so.
I have nowhere else to be, so
okay.
It's Sunday afternoon. Although the sun is shining, and after we're done, I'm going to go take Daisy for a walk.
Nice.
Enjoy the sun.
I'm jealous.
Yeah.
I would like to get outside.
Yeah. Earlier this week, Polestar announced the platform for one of their upcoming vehicles, the Polestar 5. It's going to have a bonded aluminum space frame. So it's going to be glued together. Keep it nice and lightweight.
Ooh.
Yeah. And I'll talk a little bit more about that.
That's interesting.
In the next break.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Hang in there. We'll be back with you in 10 or something like it.
All right.
Our show today brought to you quite literally by Cashfly. Cashfly is our content delivery network, our CDN, and they are the best. In fact, Cashfly really rescued the whole TWiT network. When we were first starting out, we could not figure out how to easily get our files to everybody. People were complaining. The downloads were slow and, the website was down. I actually at one point asked everybody to set up a BitTorrent seed, and we were using BitTorrent. Finally, Matt Levine from Cashfly called, and he said, Leo, what are you doing? Just, can I help? And we've been using Cashfly ever since, more than 10 years. I love Cashfly. So they're a content delivery network, over 50 points of presence all over the world. That means when you download our files or you watch the stream on the website, you're getting it not from our servers, but from Cashfly. They are the close to you delivery network, which is great. It also means Cashfly can do something quite amazing. Ultra low latency video streaming. That is amazing. You can make your content so scalable, more than 1 million continuous users at the same time. You can go live in hours, not days. Latency, get this, less than a second. Ditch that unreliable WebRTC solution for their WebSocket live video workflow. With Cashfly's ultra-low latency video streaming, you're going to dramatically increase your sites and application speed for global audiences anywhere in the world, because their pops are all over the world. You'll take a load off your origin servers. That was the big thing for us. Our website couldn't support hundreds of thousands of listeners, so we offload it to Cashfly. And by the way, with Cashfly's new storage optimization system, they'll actually store your content, offload that origin server bill, your S3 bill or whatever. Your cache hit ratio will be 100%. That is a really good solution. I tell you what, go to twit.cashfly.com. Bring your usage trends, your bill right now for your current CDN if you have one. See how Cashfly can not only save you up to 20% over what you're paying now, but give you all these additional services like ultra-low latency video streaming and storage optimization. Ask them about the Elite Managed packages, too. A lot less than you think, and you get VIP treatment 24/7, support response times in less than an hour. In fact, our experience has been most of the time, if there's an issue, they'll know about it before we do, and they'll be fixing it before we even get a hold of them. There's never been a case in more than 10 years where Cashfly has been the hitch in our giddy up. It's always our fault. Cashfly is super reliable, super fast, up to 10 times faster than the traditional methods we were using. They're on 6 continents, 30% faster than other major CDNs, 98% cache hit ratio, and over the last 12 months, their availability, 100%. 100%. Best of all, they have 24/7, 365 days a year priority support, so they'll always be there when you need them. We couldn't be happier with Cashfly. I tell anybody who asks, I'm telling you, if you need a CDN, maybe you don't even know. If you're delivering content, games, streaming video, you need a CDN, you need Cashfly. Get a complimentary, detailed, no-pressure analysis of your current usage trends, your CDN bill if you have one. You may be overpaying by 20% or more. Go to twit.cashfly.com. Thank you, Cashfly. What a job you do for us. twit.cashfly.com. And now back to the show, streamed via Cashfly. Leo Laporte, the jazzy tech guy, 8888. Ask Leo the jazzy phone number. Back to the phones we go. Mike in Alhambra, California is next. Hi, Mike.
Oh, hi. How are you doing, Leo?
Very well. Thanks for hanging on.
Oh, you're very welcome. I'll tell you, I let's see, I think back in March or back in whatever, last year I got a Google, and all you do is just tell it what to play like. I'll ask Google, what time is it?
11:47 a.m. Look at that. And not only did it happen in your house, but all over the country, people's Google assistants leapt into action.
oh, yeah. Well, I made up my mind I was going to get something like that, and I got it.
It's fun. What do you think?
I like it. And you can also listen to music. I'll tell you some of the oldie channels on there. There's Make Out Memories Radio. It's an oldie.
Make Out Memories. I like it.
And,
I like it.
What about, let's see, there's Pop Gold Radio.
These are, these voice assistants, Amazon was the first, I think, to put out the Echo, these little devices where you could talk to them. And then Google shortly followed suit, and Apple even has some. Microsoft tried briefly with their voice assistant, and they made a little device that looks just like the Amazon Echo by Harman Kardon. The Cortana device did not take off. I have one somewhere. It was funny. It told its last joke about 8 months ago, and went silent thereafter. It just became a plain old Bluetooth speaker. But I think Google, Apple, and Amazon are in it for the long haul. And yeah, what's interesting is the promise of this was quite amazing. This was going to be HAL 9000. I'm sorry, Dave. I can't play Make Out Memories right now. But it's only really ended up being what you're using it for. What time is it? Set a timer. Do you use it to set timers when you cook? Things like that?
And we were just talking.
Notice it's still talking in the background, by the way.
I don't know why it does that.
No, I know. And that's a problem with it. And this is where it's not lived up to its promise. It's like having kind of a dumb neighbor in the house. They just pop in every once in a while and say things that make no sense. I've got them all. In fact, every room in the house has both a Google, an Echo, and a Siri in the same room. It's hysterical. I have one in the living room. We're watching TV. Every 5 minutes or so, one of them will go, "Hey, what? Huh? Yeah, no, I don't know anything about that," and then go back to sleep. It's kind of kooky. It's kind of kooky. But at the same Kim tells me you're blind.
I am, yes.
That's an interesting use for it, because you can
for it a few times.
Yeah, now you can talk to a computer and it talks back. That's a great use case for it. You can make phone calls with it, things like that.
Yeah, oh yeah, you can make phone calls with this thing here. I have people that help me out. I'm in a program called People's Care, and I have an apartment. I have 24-hour staff, so they can always help me if I need.
Oh, that's so if you fell down or something, you can shout out to it, and they can go get some help.
Or my staff. I have 24-hour staff.
That's fantastic. So you're using it more like, I think, the original intention. And I talk to blind listeners all the time who really love their voice assistants just saying, play Makeout Memories is a whole lot easier than you trying to mess with an iPod or something. I think that's great. I think it's great.
You can also on iHeartRadio listen to. Did you know they have Classic American Top 40 with Casey Kasem 24/7?
Well, yes, and you can also say, "Hey, you know who? Play the Tech Guy podcast," and you'll hear me too. So
I hear it.
We appreciate that. Thank you.
I can listen to it not only on Saturday and Sunday, but on any day.
Any day of the week. We actually have a live stream you can play. It's called TWiT Live. It's funny, the syntax seems to change from time to time, but you can try it. You could say, "Hey, you know who?" And by the way, this should work with all three of them. Play TWiT Live. Sometimes you have to say TWiT Live. Sometimes you have to say on TuneIn. I might try it. Or on iHeart or something. Yeah, but you mess with it until you find out. And then usually it stays that way for a while.
Let's see. I'll play TWiT Live.
Oh, now you're going to get an inception. You're going to hear me talking to you, talking to me about me. And then it's going to hear the okay, you know who, and it's going to start up again and again and again, and it's just a mess.
I hear your voice on there, too.
It's working. See, Mike, I am glad you called. You are a perfect example of why these technologies are really important. Less so for sighted people. Unfortunately, they really end up being a kitchen timer. But although, I have to say, Google also makes, and Amazon too, but they make devices with screens. Now, obviously, less useful for you, but you could actually do this with your voice assistant. You could say, when the war broke out in Ukraine, I would say, okay, play CNN on YouTube TV, and the ones with the screen would actually have it. So I could kind of, or if it's just audio, we just hear the audio as I walk around the house. When there's a big story like that, that's another use for it. They're not quite HAL 9000 yet. They're not quite there yet. And frankly, I thought they'd be there by now because this has been a while. When did the first Amazon Echo come out? It's been a while now. And the sad thing is they're just not making much progress. They're kind of resting on their laurels. I'd like to see them get smarter. Maybe that's a hard thing to do, right? 8888 asked Leo, the first Echo came out 8 years ago. I'm just looking right now. 2014 was when you could, March 2014, and it released for Amazon Prime and invited members. By the way, since that came out, the number of girls named Alexa has dropped dramatically. Very few babies named Alexa anymore. Mark from North Florida, Leo Laporte, the tech guy.
Hey, Leo, this is Mark. I missed my name. I guess you're talking to me.
I am talking to you. Welcome.
Super duper. This is a pretty basic question, but at one point I lived on a street that I always had to spell the street name because people just couldn't translate what they heard with the letters. I want to avoid that with email, and I've heard you talk about fast mail and other providers and the value of paying for an email account, and I'm ready to do that. But what I get kind of stalled with is I have, for instance, my last name .me as a name that I've had
Apple owns the .me TLD, yeah.
Okay. I was seeing one that related to a country called Montenegro.
Oh, interesting. Maybe they don't own it anymore. Maybe they never owned it. They had this thing called Mobile Me for a while. Yeah, Montenegro. Yeah, I have is.is. I think that's Iceland. Yeah, those are country codes.
And I don't know if a country code is confusing. I can't get my last name.com, but I can do like variations.
So that's an interesting point. So I use .email for my email. And about 1 in 5 websites will say, no, you can't use that. You have to use a real address. And the reason is, whoever wrote the code for the website hardwired, these are the legitimate top-level domains. If it's not .com, .net, .org, and they need to keep it up to date because those country codes and those additional TLDs are legit. They are completely legit. But they just haven't kept their code up to date. So you will, if you have a .me, occasionally have problems. I think .me is pretty safe. That's been around for a while. But it's been my experience that .email, for instance, sometimes gets rejected. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. Not so I would say that's a good, because you're right, I can't get leo.com. I got leo.is,
Okay.
So, but I use a .email. I use, I'm not going to say what it is, but I use a .email address. And most of the time that's fine. Sometimes it's not. I think .email is great, right? Because that says what you're doing.
Okay. I hadn't thought of that. Didn't know that one was there.
Yeah. That's the problem, though. Yeah. Not only you don't know. Some websites will not let you use it. So you're going to need a .com just in case.
Okay.
And, the .com, it doesn't have to be, Mike.com. I've had Leoville, LeoVille.com for years. And so that's always the fallback. Right? So it's a good idea to have something as a fallback. WizardLink just gave me a link, which is great. TLD-list.com. That's what these programmers should be looking at. They should not hardwire their code. There are now 3,336 legal extensions, including .me, .info, .io, .xyz. There's a lot of them. So,
well, I'm gonna try and keep it simple. So I'll look for the ones that.
.com's always the best. .com's always the best. I have people all the time say, "You mean, Leo?" I have Leo.fm, for instance, which is the shortest URL I have. I like short, and it says Leo. But people will say, "You mean Leo.fm.com?" I say, "No, no, there's no .com." That people are getting wise to that. I also have Leo.am, which is Armenia. So
I would like to have my last name, but it belongs to a funeral home in Ohio.
Yes, exactly. I can't get Laporte.com. Exactly. Yeah. No, you can be a little creative. If it's a business, that's another thing. You really want to use the business's address. But you can be a little creative. There used to be a website, allthegoodnamesaretaken.com, something like that. Yeah, have fun.
Thanks.
Nice
I appreciate your recommendations. I've listened and tried many of them over the years. So keep on going.
Bless you.
A lot of times it's the simple things, the basic things that me as a listener of many of your shows will just wait for some little nugget of gold to come along.
I try to throw nuggets in as much as possible. I get it. Most of what you hear is not useful, but the occasional nugget. I'm glad. Thank you. That's nice. I appreciate the kind words. Thanks. Have a good day. Take care.
Bye.
All right, Sam, I'm going to get a cup of coffee. You're going to get 6 minutes and 49 seconds.
Okay. And fortunately, my last name is one that doesn't get grabbed too often, so I have Abuelsamid.
Yeah, but do you want to use it? Because it's hard to figure.
I do.
You use it? Because I feel like
use
people.
It as my,
do they know how to
I
spell
use it as
it?
my personal address. And, anybody that needs to get a hold. Let me put.
They know how to spell your.
Anybody that I want to get a hold of me.
Exactly.
Will figure out how to spell my name.
Right. But you could have like sam.is.
I could.
I got leo.ist. I don't think
What is that one?
It's German. Ist.
Oh, okay.
Leo ist.
All right. Okay, so let's see what we got here. So somebody in the chat earlier had asked what the problem with Lisa's car was, and apparently it was the power electronics module.
The whole thing. They had to replace the lithium-ion battery and everything.
Oh, they replaced the battery too?
Oh God, yeah, the whole whatever they call it, EME, the whole the everything.
Or probably the battery management system.
The battery. She was told the battery, the whole thing.
All right. Well, the battery management system I think is integrated into the battery.
I think it's one unit. So. The way they made that Mini, they made it so that they can take the body and just put a thing in. It makes it electric.
All right. So elsewhere, we had questions about Subaru disabling some features in Massachusetts to comply with the right to repair law that was passed in the last election. And that law, that right to repair proposal, was that manufacturers had to open up their access to their telematics systems to third-party service providers to be able to remotely diagnose the vehicles, and they had to do it through an open platform, an open standard. And so what Subaru and also Kia now turns out has done is they've just turned off telematics for new vehicle buyers in Massachusetts. So if you buy a Subaru or a Kia in the state of Massachusetts, or I should say the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, you will no longer be able to get connectivity, the telematics system.
Wow.
And Subaru explained that in order to comply with the law, they have to comply. They have to make it available through an open standard, which doesn't exist yet. No such thing exists, and to be able to do this securely, so that it can minimize risk of hackers getting into the system is going to be really difficult. And this is why I'm generally a supporter of right to repair, but this particular regulation, I think, was very problematic with the way that it was put together, the way it was worded. So I think that I think this wasn't well thought out in terms of what the consequences would be and what they would have to do to make it a reality. And I expect we'll probably see other manufacturers follow Subaru and Kia and just turn off their telematics for the time being in Massachusetts for owners and vehicles that are registered in Massachusetts. Also, we had a question about Toyota and Honda and their upcoming EVs. So Toyota is going to be launching their first purpose-built EV, the BZ4X, with its really terrible name, in later this spring. Probably, I would guess sometime in April or early May, they should start hitting dealers. I'm actually going to be doing a drive of that at the end of March. They're going to do in the first media drives of that vehicle, and that same vehicle they co-developed that along with Subaru. So Subaru will have a version called the Solterra that they're selling, and I would recommend that if you're interested in this vehicle, it's a compact crossover, roughly the size of a RAV4 or a Honda CR-V, vehicles like that, with about a 250-mile range. And if you are interested in that, I would suggest you go for the Subaru just because it has a better name. BZ4X is just a terrible name. But the vehicle itself looks promising, and I'm looking forward to driving it in about a month's time. Honda is not launching their first EV until 2024.
Wow!
And they're doing a pair of EVs, a pair of electric crossovers, in partnership with GM. They're going to be based on GM's Ultium platform, and there's going to be one for Honda called the Prologue. And an Acura at the same time that they have not announced the name for it yet, so they're going to have to wait a little while for that. Duluth Steve says he's had his Maverick order canceled by Ford. I must say I'm super happy with the 2022 Bronco Sport Outer Banks. The 3-cylinder turbo is surprisingly excellent. Yeah, that 3-cylinder turbo is a good engine. I'd be curious to know why they canceled the Maverick order. My guess is that probably based on when you got the order in. I know Ford has cut off orders for 2022 Mavericks, so it's possible that the dealer did not actually get the order in time. They will probably resubmit it as a 2023 model just because they have so many orders for it. They cannot fulfill all the orders for 2022 models, and sometime later this summer when they switch from 22s to 23s, they will, or before then, sometime in the spring, they will reopen the order banks for 2023 models and start converting those orders over to 23s. Kapua 808 says that sounds like the kiss of death for the Honda EV. I don't know. I think they've got a pretty good platform there. I would not rule that one out as a viable alternative.
Thank you, Sam.
You're welcome, Leo.
Real
and
pleasure.
I will talk to you next week.
Take care.
All right. Bye-bye.
He's good, isn't he? He's good. Well, hey, how are you today, Leo Laporte, the tech guy? Time to talk computers, the internet, home theater, digital photography, smartphones, smartwatches, all that jazz. 8888 Ask Leo, the phone number, 888-827-5536. Toll free from anywhere in the U.S. or Canada. I'd love to hear from you. If you've got a question, a comment, a suggestion, you want to talk high tech, I'd like to do it with you. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. Curtis, he's calling from Fountain Valley, California. Hi, Curtis.
Hi, Leo.
Welcome.
Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Good. Thank you for taking my call.
Thanks for calling.
I have an existing HP 8620 OfficeJet Pro printer.
Okay.
It's about 5 years old.
Okay.
All of a sudden, it started giving me this. The print head appears to be missing or not detected or incorrectly installed error.
Is it it's an OfficeJet? That's an Inkjet, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So I can't remember if HP, a lot of Inkjet printer companies, when you replace the ink cartridge, replaces the head. If they don't, they probably have a head replacement program because those do wear out. But I'm not sure if this particular model can be repaired or not. And that's a question for HP. I'd send them an email saying, this is the message I'm getting. Mm-hmm. Do you sell a replacement head? And some companies do, because that is something that wears out on an inkjet. And if not, then it's time to get a new one. The good news is inkjet printers aren't very expensive. So I would, when you buy an inkjet, the main thing to consider is how often you print. If you don't print more every week with an inkjet, mm-hmm. they get clogged and then you have to waste ink cleaning the nozzles. And I don't think they're a smart buy. If you're only printing very occasionally, it's probably better to get a laser printer, which can sit there for weeks at a time not being used and still operate just fine. Uh-huh. But if you do use your ink, and by the way, an inkjet is the best way to get color, to do photo printing, that kind of thing. So if you do use it frequently, then you want to look at the cost of consumables, because inkjet printers can be very expensive. The ink from some companies is so expensive, it's more expensive than human blood. It's so expensive that your cost per page could be as much as 10 cents or more per page. So what you want to look at, and PC Magazine and others will do reviews of these, you want to look at the cost per page. That includes the ink, the paper, the cost of, new cartridges and all of that stuff. There are companies that have responded to the complaints people have about the cost. There are a couple of companies now that make inkjets with tanks instead of little cartridges. Cartridges don't hold much. In fact, if you've ever taken apart an inkjet cartridge, it's not full of ink. It's full of a sponge that holds a small amount of ink. And they charge $30, $40, $50 for this. So a tank is a much more affordable way to do that. Epson started it. They were a long-time sponsor with their Eco tanks. I think they're very good. But as soon as Epson showed that the way with this, other companies have gone along with Epson and started producing inkjets that use ink tanks instead of ink cartridges. I honestly think that's a better way to go because the cost of the consumables is so much lower. Read the reviews. I don't try them all, but Canon now makes a tank printer along with the HP. HP calls it the Smart Tank. And of course the Epson Eco tanks. I think those are going to be a good way to go. If you like your HP, if you've been happy with it, if HP says can't replace the head, which they may well, a lot of times, these are designed to last a few years and that's it, which I think is shameful. Honestly, everything should be replaceable. But do look at a tank. Now, the problem with the tank, and I remember talking to Epson about this, their great fear when they first introduced these was that people would not understand that, yeah, the printer costs a lot more up front because you're not going to pay for the cartridges. And they all come with enough ink probably, for hundreds of cartridges. So people, if you just go to the, Office Depot and say, well, this printer is $99, this printer is $199, I'm going to get the $99 printer. Well, it's the cost over time. So that's where you really want to focus, especially with Inkjet, on the cost per page of the consumables. Laser printers typically are pennies per page, 3, 4, 5 cents a page. Inkjet printers can be 10 times more if you don't choose wisely. That's why you see Inkjet printers for $50. They're losing money on the printer, but they make so much money on the ink. So honestly, I think a tank is the best way to go. And as I said, Canon, which makes, by the way, great photo printers. I think their Pixmas are fantastic photo printers. HP, which is kind of the king of office printers. You have an OfficeJet, and Epson. All three make tank printers, and I would take a look at those. They're going to be a little more expensive up front. If you print enough, they're going to save you money in the long run. Carol, Irvine, California. Leo Laporte, the tech guy.
I hope you can help me.
I hope so too, Carol. I pray that every day. Can I help Carol today? What can I do?
All of a sudden, all my Gmails are blank.
Oh, I hate it when that happens.
Oh, can you help me?
No, I have no idea. So you see the to address, do you see a subject line?
Yes, I do.
You just look at the thing and there's nothing on it.
So when I open it, there's nothing there.
Nothing on it.
Except the subject line, right.
Couple of things to try. The thing to understand about Gmail is it's really not a web page. It's an application. It's, in fact, one of the very first web apps anybody's used. They've been around for more than a decade now, and it was the very first web app. So things can go wrong in what we call rendering the page. The first thing I would try, what browser are you using?
Chrome.
Just out of curiosity, try another browser.
Okay, I should have said that. I did that. I used Bing.
Okay.
And it worked.
Yes. Good.
But everything I do is on Chrome.
Yeah. No, we want to keep using Chrome. We just want to narrow down the cause, the culprit, the evil villain that's causing this to happen. So that's good. So it works in other browsers, just doesn't work in Chrome. So the best thing to do at this point is to reset your Chrome. So the way it works is there's a lot of code, JavaScript it's called, that gets downloaded to run Gmail. And to save time, your browser saves all of that stuff into what they call a cache, C-A-C-H-E. This is a well-known technology used by computers in a variety of places to speed things up. The premise being, well, if you did it once, you're probably going to want to do it again. So let's remember that and save you time. So you don't have to go out and download all of the Gmail JavaScript. But there's one problem with cache. If it gets corrupted or damaged or missing or something, and the Chrome doesn't understand that it's damaged, this is exactly the symptom you'd get. Like, I'm rendering the page. See? Look at me. I'm drawing it. It's not doing anything. So we can fix this by restoring or resetting your Chrome. Now, there are different levels of resetting Chrome. The most extreme sets it back to like when you first downloaded it, which means it's going to forget any passwords, any bookmarks. We don't want to do that yet. I think it'll be sufficient just to clear the cache, clear the history in the cache. So if you go into settings, do you know where the settings is? It's that ... over on the right there, and you click that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
settings,
and
right.
more, and then you go into advanced, because this is for professionals, trained professionals. You'll see there are some settings for reset and cleanup. What you really don't want, I wouldn't do the full reset because that's going to take you back to page just, when you start, and you probably would lose some things you like. So
I don't see any of that.
You don't see any of that?
I see settings, and then it goes to...
It's under advanced?
There's no advanced.
There's no advanced. Right. Okay.
I know.
It's there somewhere. I don't have Chrome in front of me. Let me see if I have Chrome on this computer.
Somewhere.
It's somewhere. It's in there. Dig around in the settings. What I would start with is clearing the cache, clearing the temporary files, because almost certainly that's what's wrong. The other thing to do is look at what extensions you've installed in Chrome. So Chrome, you can add little things, maybe a password manager. Have you added any extensions to your Chrome that you know of?
I have LastPass.
Okay, that should be all right. But one thing to try is to look through you should always look through extensions, because that's another place that bad guys store stuff in, and malware is in your browser extensions. So another thing that might even just be the first thing to do is to start up Chrome without at least go through your extensions and plugins and make sure that they all are things you want. You can do it temporarily. Sometime I can't remember with Chrome. Is it holding down the Shift key? No, it doesn't look like they have a. Used to be browsers would have a way to do this because it happens so often. It looks like you're going to have to go into the extensions and just disable them by checking the boxes one by one. So even disable LastPass, just temporarily, just to see. Okay. And you might even do it, we're trying to diagnose it, so see what's the culprit, what's causing this. So you might check them, disable them one by one to see if it fixes it. That way you'll know which one's breaking it. Ad blockers apparently sometimes do this, they're telling me. So you're going to be digging around in your settings. Look in settings for advanced. It's in there somewhere. And in the advanced settings, you'll see that you can. It might be under content, but you can kind of clear the cache. That's the first thing I would worry. It's settings, more tools. Okay, thank you to the chat rooms. Webb 1211 logged in just to help you. It's under settings, more tools. That's where I was mistaken. Clear browsing.
Okay.
And so just try clearing out that cache. My guess is that it's one of two things. Either you have some extension that's doing that. More likely, the cache got damaged, and by clearing it, all will be better. All will be well. You're going to reload, in other words, the Gmail JavaScript that runs that whole thing. It's almost like reinstalling Gmail. You're welcome. That's a terrible thing to have happen. The good news is your email is still there. You know that because you launched Edge and it worked. So you know that. Right. It's just a question of what's wrong with my Chrome. Ultimately, if none of this stuff works, you can reset Chrome back to factory settings. That's also in there. That'll clear everything. But as I said, you'll lose a lot of the stuff that you may not want to lose, like your cookies and your bookmarks and stuff. You'll have to re-log into all the sites, things like that. You got LastPass. That's not the end of the world. Right. I'm glad you're using LastPass.
Too.
Yes.
Because of you.
Makes me happy because that's a very, any password manager, doesn't have to be LastPass. Very important. Very important. Turn on two-factor too, whenever you think of it.
Two-factor. Okay, been doing that.
Yay, Carol. I'll put a gold star right on your forehead. Thank you, Carol.
Take care.
Have a great day. Leo Laporte, the tech guy, 8888 Ask Leo, the phone number. More of your calls. All of you do that now. Get yourself a password manager. You want your gold star, right? Okay, turn on two-factor. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. La 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 la. Hey, Chris. How was your family visit? Did you have a good time?
Very good, very good.
Good.
Yeah, there might be another one to the in-laws next week.
Quite all right. I don't mind. You should enjoy family while they're around. It's a good thing. And I know it's hard to work on the weekends. Trust me, I've been doing it my whole life. Since 1992, I've been working weekends.
That's what you get for being in the entertainment industry.
Yeah. Holidays and
you
weekends.
You work times when other people have time off.
Yeah. Sigh. I wouldn't know what to do if I had Saturday and Sunday off. I don't know what I'd be. I guess I'd go to a brunch. That's it. Brunch. That's what I'd do.
You have an email, by the way.
Okay. Okay, I'll check it, and we will talk.
Of course, we're going to look at photos, and I will show them, and you have a backup link.
Good. We'll talk in 10. Leo Laporte, the tech guy, asking the tough questions. Jeff from Palm Springs. Hello, Jeff.
Hello.
Welcome to the show. The chat room tells me that is called a zero? Anyway, go ahead. What's on your mind, Jeff?
Well, I've got OneDrive that I use.
Yes.
And it keeps sending me emails every day.
Hero.
Telling me about pictures I took a year ago.
I hate that. Don't you hate that?
I hate it completely. I'm trying to figure out how to get rid of it.
Turn off.
I finally sent an email to their customer service, and I got no response.
Yeah, they're copying Google, and Apple does this too now, where they think because you store your photos there, you would like to see some, memories.
Yeah.
And apparently you don't like what happened last year. Actually, none of us do we? 2021, not a year to remember, or 2020.
Actually, I've got some great pictures, but I don't need them to help me.
Yeah. I understand.
What I want to look at.
Yeah. So it's a form of notification. So you can do that from the OneDrive settings. If you go to right-click on the OneDrive icon, it's down there in the lower right in the taskbar, and you'll see Help and Settings.
Okay.
And if you go to it, you'll see some check marks under notifications. And you can edit, you can change those, including the one that says, I don't want to see when OneDrive suggests a new collection of my photos and videos. I don't want to see that.
Perfect.
No more. Stop. Notifications are a mixed bag. Somebody once told me, I think this is brilliant. When you get a new phone, I just got a new Samsung, go through it, or a new Apple, go through it and turn off all notifications. Just turn them all off, because notifications are like a hook, and you're the fish. Yeah. They're just grabbing you. You're trying to do something, and I'll look at my photos when it's time. I do the same thing. I see that on my phone. So they said go through and turn off all notifications, and then very, very selectively maybe turn on, okay, I want alarms, because I'm going to use it for alarms. Or if not, if you don't use it for alarms, don't turn that on. But really, because notifications are a way for an app to get your attention, Microsoft wants you to use OneDrive. One of the really annoying notifications is when you're not using OneDrive, and it says, wouldn't you like to use OneDrive? You would really like, would you turn on OneDrive? They annoy the heck out of me. So notifications are really the bane of any productivity. They're designed to just turn us all into little ADD squirrels. So I say turn them all off, and then very judiciously turn them back on. I think, honestly, there should be a button, a global button on any device, computer, phone, tablet, that says just turn them all off. Unfortunately, there really isn't. So when you get a new device, just turn them all off. You see there's other notifications in OneDrive when others share with me or edit my shared items, when a large number of files are deleted in the cloud, before many files that I delete on my PC are removed from the cloud, when sync pauses automatically. And then finally, when OneDrive suggests a new collection of my photos and videos. They even name this in a very confusing way. When OneDrive suggests a new collection of my photos and videos, do you want that checked or not? It's very confusing. I think they secretly want you to see that because it's an advertisement for OneDrive. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. Let's talk photos with Chris Marquardt next. It's time for Chris Marquardt, photo man extraordinaire, my personal photo sensei at sensei.photo. He joins us every week to help us take better pictures. Hello, Chris.
Hello, Leo. How are you today?
I am great. How are things in the Viewfinder Villa?
Okay, good. The world's on fire, but other than that...
Okay. Maybe Chris, people don't know because Chris's quality of the sound is so good. He's not sitting across from me. He's actually calling us from Germany. And you're not so far from the action, I guess. I mean, close enough that you might be feeling some heat.
It's a few thousand miles, but
Yeah. Anyway,
they're a bit strange. Yeah, but we want to talk about photography today,
Yes.
and I have looked into yet another style of photography that is a special kind of composition. I call them graphic compositions. So just imagine you have a photo that looks like it's from a drawing board. We're talking really stark lines. We're talking contrast. We're talking repetition, and that is something that gives you a special style of photo, as if it came from a drawing board. And I'm a great fan of those because they always add an interesting kind of abstraction. And I just want to go through a few examples here. Here's one that's really extreme contrast. So we're looking at I don't even know what that is. It's a light fixture, maybe.
You can't tell it's a photo. And maybe in context with other photos, then you go, oh, that's a nice photo. Otherwise, as you say, it looks like an illustration. It just rings.
It is an illustration, but it is a photo. And this one, I mean, if you want to copy that, if you want to recreate that, you would go into your photo app settings and look for white point, black point settings, and make it really high contrast and play with these kind of things so that all the detail is gone. But there's graphic compositions also just in the way they have symmetry. For example, what we're looking at here is I think it's a window of sorts, and it's very symmetrical, like a lot of parallel lines, a lot of repetition in there. Again, it is very abstract. Doesn't have to be for these types of compositions, but it really makes, I think, something really pleasing to look at. You have a lot of space in these kind of compositions to put your own meaning in there. So it's for me, that's a very engaging type of shot to look at. Or what we're seeing here, again, it has a very industrial feel. It's a lot of repetition. I
like this. It's like a fence or a metal wall somewhere. But
that's one of those roll down fences in front of a shop or something.
But it's a very cool effect.
It's a very cool effect. It's also, it has these tiny little irregularities in there. If you see these joints in there that are not exactly on the same line, so there's a bit of variation in there, but it's still very repetitive, or repetitive enough to give you that feeling that this has been done on a drawing board. Here's another example. Again, no idea what that is. It looks like a shot from upwards, and there are some possibly lights, but again, it might be a shot looking down at something, and they might be concrete pillars. Again, extreme contrast. Or something that's completely, you have no idea what it is. There's some wavy lines here. That could be anything. It could be a window. It could be just two things that kind of overlay each other and create this type of wavy pattern that looks weird. But then, of course, there are also like regular photos that you will recognize as photos. Like here's a row of houses, and they are,
I love this. Yeah, very nice.
They're the same, but they are shot in a way that, again, gives it a bit of an abstraction. The lines are very parallel. The repetition is in there. It has an industrial feel of sorts. And that could be very, if you put some tracing paper over that, you could easily make a drawing of that with a ruler and a pencil. So that's one of the marks. Architecture in general has a lot of these things. If you approach architecture with picking out details and trying to find these areas that look like they came from the drawing board. Here's one of those air vents of sorts that are in front of a building, and the building itself has very parallel vertical lines. Again, repetition. The parallelism, I think, is a really important feature here. because it's not just parallel in itself, but it's those vertical lines are parallel to the edges of the frame. So you have this looks like this is a super deliberate composition. And if you look at the parallel lines in the air vents, they are horizontal. So you have one direction, the horizontal, and the other, the vertical. I'm a great fan of that. Strong shadows is another area that lends to these kind of graphical compositions. Here's a building with a lot of balconies and strong sunlight, and now you have the repetition, you have the strong shadows. So that is fun to look at. This is a more of a photo, but again, we are looking at parallel lines, but not just that. We're also looking at a very restricted color palette. That's another thing that really helps. If you find a place that doesn't have a lot of colors, then that will be interesting looking. And again, if you look at the lines and how they are, at least parts of them parallel to the edge of the frame, that is beautiful. Or you combine elements that are more on the graphic side, like this crosswalk. And then what the photographer has done here is combine the orange lines of the crosswalk with pretty much the same color of a car that's just driving over it. So you have the organic lines of the car, and then the very straight and parallel lines of the sidewalk, the crosswalk. So there's so many examples of graphic compositions that if you look for them, if you look for these also minimalistic compositions every now and then, or combine graphic elements with the, let's say, more organic things like people, then I think you're onto a winner. So
it's interesting.
Go out and look for these kind of things. It's amazing.
Stairs appear a couple of or three times in here. Staircases, stairs, they're very good for this kind of thing because they are so geometric. In fact, buildings in general seem to be a good place.
Yes.
Modern architecture.
Absolutely. So yeah, that's it's not just about landscapes and things. Sometimes these things also work really well.
I will put a link in the show notes to the gallery from Flickr that Chris put together so that you could see the images he's talking about. And of course, this is an encouragement to go out and take some pictures, but that's not the only encouragement. We also have an assignment. What is our assignment, Chris? Silly?
The silly assignment is still ongoing for a couple of weeks.
Go take pictures illustrating the idea of silly, whatever that means to you. You don't have to have a fancy camera, your camera phone. In fact, nowadays, I've been playing with a Samsung Galaxy S22 Ultra, Chris. I mean, it's practically a pro camera in a camera phone. Yep. That's perfectly fine. Once you get an image you like, tag it TG Silly, upload it to Flickr, to our Tech Guy group. Once a week, you can upload a photo. A couple more weeks to find silly photos. Chris will review them in a couple of weeks. Chris Marquardt is at sensei.photo. Thank you, Sensei. Namaste.
Thank you, Leo.
Oh, that gallery did not work that I clicked there? Oh. Huh.
Did it work? Did it not work?
No, I pasted it in, but it must have failed. Let me
sorry, I didn't see it.
I see it. I'm seeing it. But when I pasted it in the chat, it didn't work. Did it work in the other? Yeah, that did work in the must have done something something gone wrong in the paste. Let me try it again. There we go. That's okay. I see it pasted twice. That's why. A double paste. So now you got a single paste.
There we go.
Well, have a good week. Do you know now if you're not going to be home next week, or?
Yeah, I'm going to call it now. It might be super tight, so
that's fine.
I guess
we'll skip it.
Probably
no bigs.
Better to take the stress out.
No bigs. We'll see you in 2.
See you in 2.
All right. Take care, Chris. Drive safely. Stay away from the Ukraine. Just keep to the west. Just keep to the west.
Working on that. Yeah.
Ay. All right. Take care. Bye-bye. Those are some memories. Leo Laporte, the tech guy, 8888 Ask Leo, the phone number. Linda on the line from Lake Elsinore, California, our next caller. Hi, Linda.
Leo.
Welcome.
Been trying for a long time, but my question is, can I get by without having Wi-Fi in the house? I don't watch TV. I don't do nothing, and I have unlimited on my cell phone, cellular data.
So you're already paying. You feel like you're already paying for internet. Maybe you could use your phone as a hotspot instead of paying for home internet.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to make it clear because, I read it and I still don't know what the right thing
to do. Usually you pay a little extra. It depends who your carrier is. Some carriers don't charge extra for hotspotting. What you should do, who's your carrier?
T-Mobile.
T-Mobile. I don't think they do charge extra, but you should look at their terms. Most carriers kind of don't want you to do this. Because you'll be sitting on the same cell tower all the time, and as a result, you'll be using a lot of data from that one cell tower. But you're a little different because you said you don't stream TV, you don't watch Netflix or anything like that.
No, nothing.
Nothing. You just get email, and do you do some web surfing?
I do it from my phone.
Yeah, and now you would be doing it on a laptop. What do you do on your laptop is the question. What are you doing on your Wi-Fi that you're now going to transfer to your T-Mobile plan?
Well, I don't have a laptop. I have a desktop, and sometimes I just like to sit down for a little bit.
Just browse around.
Yeah, and just watch, the news but everything, emails, and
so
I do through my phone.
Some of that, watching the news, for instance, can use a lot of data. So the first thing I would do is look at your T-Mobile plan and see if it allows hotspotting, and then see what the limits are. There are almost always more limits on hotspotting. That's what they call this, hotspotting. When you use your phone, there's in the settings, you go into settings and you turn your phone on and say, be a Wi-Fi access point for my laptop. That's called hotspotting. And most of the time they have some limitations on that they do not have on using the data with the phone. So you should first check those terms. Then I would also look at your internet service provider, the people who are giving you the Wi-Fi right now, and see how much data you use a month. Because it's hard to estimate how much data you're using. Occasionally I sit down and watch the news. Maybe I'll surf some. We don't really know how much data we use. So the only way to check is to actually look at your bill. Depending on who your internet service provider is, most of them you can log into their website and they will tell you how much data you've used in any given month. So I would check that out. And if that's low enough that it fits within the limitations that T-Mobile gives you, and again, that's going to depend on what kind of plan you have with T-Mobile and so forth. You say you have unlimited, but unlimited usually, and I think this is true of T-Mobile, applies only to data you're using when you're using your cell phone. They know when you're hotspotting, and that often has different terms. So you want to check those terms. But if you're a light internet user, that's actually a completely legitimate way to go. T-Mobile, you should also know, I'm not recommending this because it's probably not going to save you money, does offer home cellular internet for this reason. They really don't, none of these companies want you to sit on your computer using your cell phone's data. By the way, you want to plug your cell phone in because it's going to kill your battery. You want to be aware of some things. You probably want to keep it in a kind of cool place because it sometimes gets heated up depending on the phone. So T-Mobile sells home, they call it residential service, as well as using your phone for that. Verizon and T-Mobile both are going into the residential service business. And sometimes it's a better deal. It depends what you're getting. If you're a very casual internet user, sounds like you are, you don't stream a lot of video, you're not watching Netflix every night, that kind of thing. Often you can get a really good deal from the phone company. They don't have very high speed, so it's not great for watching video, but they're cheap. Cable company is going to be more expensive, but more suitable for streaming a lot of data, for using a lot of internet. So, in most places, by the way, those are the three choices. You have a phone company, internet service provider, AT&T or Frontier or whoever that is. You have your cable internet provider, Spectrum, Comcast, Cox, that like that. And then you have your mobile provider. Mobile providers kind of getting into this business. And in some places, it's probably a better deal to get the wireless. Depends on how much speed you get and so forth. Remember, you're not going to have the same amount of speed generally on a cell connection, but it might be adequate. So that's my advice. Check your plan from T-Mobile. Check your bill from your existing internet service provider. You might also want to try it because the speed on your phone is going to be faster than the speed using your phone on a laptop. That's a complicated sentence. Hotspotting is often slower than actually just using the phone for internet. 8888 Ask Leo, the phone number. Bill in Kennewick, Washington. Hello, Bill.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Thanks for calling.
I'm all new to these iPhones and whatnot, and I'm trying to use this phone to plug into my laptop and use it as a modem or a dial-up.
Same thing, hotspotting, yeah.
Well, okay, well, how do I get this? How do I tell that computer to use this or dial this phone?
So you're not going to plug it in. What you're going to do, your phone has an internet connection through the cell service. You're going to go into the settings on the iPhone, and you're going to turn on the hotspot. That's how you do it. It becomes a Wi-Fi access point, which you then can join on your laptop if you go in the Wi-Fi settings. In fact, when you set up your hotspot, I'm looking at my iPhone right now. So I went to settings, and there's a settings item, personal hotspot. And again, this is going to depend on your carrier. But when you go into it, it will tell you what your password is. It generates one. And the name of the hotspot will be probably either provided by your phone. In fact, they even on the iPhone have connections. So yeah, it's my phone's name and then the password that they provide me. So you'll do that. They actually have instructions on how to do this using Wi-Fi. You can use USB. It's a little more complicated. It says choose the iPhone from the list of network services in your settings. But honestly, I would just use, it's so much easier to do it wirelessly. But you can, in fact, they have, if you go to the settings, personal hotspot, Apple very kindly, thank you, Apple, provides instructions how to use Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, and USB to do this.
So this phone will just see that computer wirelessly then? Or
yeah, so the phone is basically going to be getting its internet from your cell service and turn it itself into a Wi-Fi access point, which will have a name. It'll be the name of your phone. You go to your computer, you click the Wi-Fi icon, and you'll see, oh, hey, there's my phone. And you'll say, okay, join that, and then you'll have to give it the password that is in this settings. You can change that password if you want. You can make it something easier to type or easier to remember.
Okay, but so that's not going to be anything in control panel. It'll just pop up or something on the screen.
Well, you're on a Windows machine?
It's an old Windows.
So usually in the taskbar down in the lower right, there is a little icon that has to do with your connectivity. It's if you're on Wi-Fi, it'll be that little Wi-Fi icon.
Yeah,
you just click on it, and you can say, oh, I want to connect. And then you'll see your phone as one of the things. Once you put the phone in hotspot mode, you have to put it in hotspot mode first.
I see. So just put the phone in the hotspot mode, and then it'll find everything.
And then it'll just be just like joining a Wi-Fi network anywhere else. Your phone suddenly is a Wi-Fi network.
Okay, so that doesn't matter. This isn't an SE or any of that stuff. It'll just have that in the settings.
What really matters is your carrier. Some carriers charge you for this. You have to turn this feature on. So you have to check and make sure that whoever's providing your cellular service allows this. But if they do, it's very easy. Leo Laporte, the tech guy.
Hello, Rod.
Hey, how are you?
I am well. How are you?
I'm good. I have newly optimized Zoom settings, thanks to Burke.
Wow. Let me see. Let me see how optimized this. Oh, my God. You're amazing.
Well, we didn't change the video.
Oh,
it was just the audio that was
mind.
up.
No, it sounds great.
But thank you.
Yes. Check.
So
you have
what
to
a week.
check it every time because they reset themselves, by the way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How about
really
that?
annoying.
I think every time I unplug the computer from this workstation.
Yeah.
It's
so annoying.
Decides to go. Yeah.
We go through this all the time.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh, it's not mine. No, I'm sorry for you. I don't have to do anything.
You just walk in and sit out.
Show up. That's been my goal. just to show up. I just show up.
But you show up a lot. You know, I've been listening to more and more of your stuff late at night.
Oh my God, how many shows does this guy do?
Well, how many hours a week do you prep for?
Well, and Lisa will tell you this. It's just I'm always. What are you Where are you laughing, John? My life has been prep for this show. Yeah, I mean, I'm always, even when we're watching TV, I always have the computer open and I have my tabs. So my number one tab is sumi.news, which is my news feed. Then I have Reddit open. I have Hacker News open. I have my email open, Twitter open, the community forums, and I'm constantly going back and forth, checking out, is anything new? Anything new? What's going on? I'm doing it now because we got TWiT coming up. But and that's all right. I don't mind. I enjoy it.
When you retire, you won't be able to.
I totally will be able to. I can't wait. I'm so tired.
You say that. You'll be checking all your stuff going, I got to be on the air.
I have been planning all along. I have been planning for this. I have a concept. Probably should keep it secret. But for my once I'm out of the business and I'm retired, which won't be for many years, but when that happens, I want to do one podcast a week, but that in a way is many podcasts a week. And I've already set it up. It's called Leo on the Line. And the idea is, like, if there's a space news story, I'd call you up. I'd say, hey, Rod, Leo on the line here. What the hell is going on with the Chinese space rock? And you'd tell me, in a couple of minutes. I'd say, great, Rod, thank you. And that's part of the show. So it would be kind of like a summary of I think the way I'm doing it, because Anchor lets you do this, is I'll do all of those bits will be available individually, or you can get the end of the week Leo on the Line, which has it all. It's Lotl. LOTL.fun, F-U-N. I've had this for a while.
I like it.
I set this up a long time ago. Just like I said at my blog, I have all this stuff. It's in the wings, ready and waiting, so that if I do retire and then I go, oh, crap, where's my audience? I'm so depressed. I'm all alone. I got nothing to do. I could just do that.
Well, and then what's the segment you do? Not a segment, but it's a whole show you do. You did recently the Genesis machine.
Yeah, with Amy, yeah.
Those are fun. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, so that's the same thing. Instead of these being long shows, it'd be little hors d'oeuvres, little tidbits, little aperitifs.
Perfect.
Yeah. And so this way I get my hit. TWiT fans will still hear from all the same people, but in little chunks. And the other thing that I've been thinking about, so there's a number of reasons that I want to do this. One is I could do it anywhere. I could be on a boat and do this because it's a phone call. So it's easy to do that. So they're all little bits, short little bits. Some of them are just me and Lisa fighting. It could be all different stuff.
But you're already in Petaluma. And how much closer to heaven can you get?
I know.
That?
Well, we like to travel. That's the only real reason. True. The only real reason I would retire, and that's my other. I'm so envious of you having a boat. I always wanted to own a boat, but then I know that that's a money pit. So
oh my God!
I'm going to take all the money.
I'll sell you mine.
I know. I'm going to take all the money I would have spent on a boat and put it into a world cruise. So I want to do the first thing I'm going to do the day I retire. I'm going to get on a boat and be gone for 6 months. But even then, I could still do this, right?
Yeah.
And just upload when I get to a port. I'll upload it. So I feel like I could do that. So that's the goal.
Well, you don't even need to wait. You could get a Starlink by then. Probably
Yeah. I signed up for Starlink just for that.
Shoebox.
Yeah, just for that reason. So that's... Anyway, lots of stuff to talk about in space. You're here early.
You bet.
We'll talk in half an hour.
Okay.
Thank you, sir.
My pleasure.
Thank you for indulging my end-of-life fantasy.
It's not end of life.
My
it's
midlife
last act.
My midlife fantasy. Life goes on. Well, hey, how are you today? Leo Laporte here, the tech guy. Talking computers, the internet, home theater, digital photography, smartphones, smart watches. How technology is changing everything in our lives. How we work, how we play, how we worship, and how we go to war even. I mean, we're seeing this. Did you see the story that the Ukrainian army and intelligence services are using Google Maps? They're using Google Maps to keep an eye on where the Russians are? Researchers are tracking the Russian invasion of Ukraine in Google Maps because you can see traffic reports, right? There's a story in the Washington Post about a guy who is a professor specializing in arms control and non-proliferation. He's down the road a bit in Monterey at the Middlebury Institute of International Studies, Jeffrey Lewis. And he was monitoring Google Maps with a research team of students 3 in the morning in Russia, in Belgorod, Russia. And he's watching, he's looking, and he sees, oh my goodness, he's got a radar image. He's got Google Maps. He sees traffic jams on the border, road closures popping up, boom, boom, boom. According to the Post, Lewis and his team realized an invasion was underway hours before the news became public. They were in California. Lewis said, in the old days, we would have relied on a reporter to show us what was happening on the ground. Today, you can open Google Maps and see people fleeing Kyiv. Ukraine using satellite imagery. And the thing is, nothing goes unobserved anymore, right? That's what's changed so rapidly, even just in the last decade or so. Nothing goes unobserved, whether it's by satellites or smartphones. If you're savvy enough to collect all this data, there's no fog of war anymore. Just fascinating. So even how we go to war, and what a great tragedy, of course, in Ukraine, but even how we go to war is changed by technology. And the predominance of technology is one of the reasons that Russia is shutting down parts of Facebook and Twitter. They don't like all that that free flow of information. They're not liking that so much. YouTube getting blocked in Russia, certain channels. They don't. We don't want people to know what's going on. Oh, but they do, and that's what's great, right? 8888 Ask Leo. That's the phone number. 888-827-5536. We're going to talk another way of observation, the Great Webb Telescope, in just a bit. It's getting closer and closer. What a miracle of technology that is. Rod Pyle, space guy, will join us in about 20 minutes at the bottom of the hour. Talk about that and all the space news that's coming up. But meanwhile, let's go to Derek. He's in Los Angeles, our next caller. Hi, Derek.
Oh, yes, Mr. Leo, thank you so much for being there.
Thank you for calling.
Yes, I'm hoping that I can, through you and your contacts, locate a defective, a replacement printhead. The one
This is the second call in a row for a printhead. It must be printhead day. So what kind of printer do you have?
Epson Stylus Photo 1280.
1280. Oh, that was a great printer.
Oh.
Mine is long retired. When did you buy that?
15 or more years ago. Maybe.
That was the best. I used that to print black and white because it was large format, right? Had a big carriage.
11 by 17.
Yeah. So I was able to get beautiful papers and print photographic prints. That's a classic photographer's printer. Do you do color or black and white with it?
Both.
Interesting.
Yeah.
You know where I learned about it? A great photographer's website called, you're probably familiar with it, The Luminous Landscape, Michael Reichman's site. And he was a big fan of the 1280. So so you're saying that you've gone to Epson and they don't sell replacement heads for it?
Yeah, well, I took it to an Epson authorized repair shop, a great one here in the San Fernando Valley, and they did replace the carriage that needed to be done.
Okay.
But then we got stopped with the defective print head, and Epson doesn't offer them anymore. I'm hoping someone has it out sitting on the shelf.
Maybe somebody's listening. They never used one, or that's the problem. Is anything you're gonna buy. You can buy one on eBay today. In fact, I'm looking at an eBay listing for a 1280. But I think it's probably as old as yours is. So $55, not bad. But maybe This is what people do, for years, people did this with cars. You'd go to the pick and pull lot, you'd find some old beater car somebody abandoned, and you'd take the carburetor out, right? So that's possibly. Oh, look at this. Scooter X in our chat room has found on eBay a kit, printhead cleaning kit. Oh, but it's just for cleaning.
Yeah, it's been and the
cleaning's not the problem. You need a new printhead. Yeah.
Indeed.
I would go to eBay and look, and you may just, $55, it might be worth it just to buy a used Epson. And it seems like there's an Amazon listing. That can't be. That must be. Sometimes Amazon, if you Google something, it'll have a listing. Yeah, it's not available. See all buying options is the button, and then nobody. Oh, well, you know what? There are people selling new ones. Holy cow.
Yeah, there was. I did find one, but it was in China.
Yeah, be really careful. A lot of these third-party sellers on Amazon, it's going to be hard. There's not going to be a lot of recourse. I understand why you want to. I had a 1280 for years. Loved that thing. What a great. Are you a photographer?
No, I do design, architectural and
Perfect.
design.
So you're using it to print out your images,
drawings, and and images, and it's been a great printer, and I hate to let it go.
Maybe somebody listening has a 1280, and they're willing to give you the printhead, or they know where you can get a printhead. This is a great place to call for that kind of information. It's kind of like the old user groups. You stand up, say, "Has anybody got?" And that there's 50,000, 100,000 people listening. It's actually more like 500,000, I think, people listening. Somebody might have one. Somebody might have one. Yeah. I share your love. I should say, now Epson has even probably better printers, newer printers that are large format inkjet printers. You get this one had a good run. Maybe it's time to get a new one.
It did.
Yeah. But hey, if anybody can find one, let us know. Check the show notes. Sometimes we get people coming in after the fact, and we can put that in the show notes. Derek needs a 1280 printhead. Help him out.
Okay.
Thanks, Derek.
Thank you, sir.
Have a good one. Take care. This is a whole new idea for the radio show. I used to, and you know what? I think our mothership, this show started in when did it start? 2004 on KFI in Los Angeles. The FI in KFI stood for Farm Information. And I swear in the old days, not with KFI, it's always been a big city station in my lifetime. But, you live in a rural area, there's always a station or two. little station. There's a guy comes on. Do they still do this? Joe's got a cow for sale in East Bumstead. Anybody looking for a good prime heifer, couple of years old, give us a ring. And people would sell stuff on the shows. You remember that? Or is that my imagination? I don't think anybody does that anymore. They do. Redacted says KGHO in Aberdeen, Washington. 80. I've got a dozen hen eggs. We'll swap it for a goat. Anybody want to help me out looking for a Alpine, a good cheese goat? 8888 Ask Leo. That's the number. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. Rod, you don't remember that, do you? Is that just my imagination?
You know what I do remember is TV channels that had a camera that panned across a barometer.
Oh, that was in. Did you grow up in Rhode Island?
No, they had that here. If you went into the smaller market,
Channel 6 in Worcester.
Yeah.
After the show hours, they just have the camera go back and forth on the clock, the barometer, the wind speed indicator.
One, yeah.
Wow.
It was exciting television. I mean, that was
actually was that in New Bedford?
Watching the test pattern late at night.
Wait a minute. I want to see if that station's still there.
God, we age
New Bedford, Massachusetts. Oh, man. What was the station?
I didn't know the F in KFI was for farm.
Farm Information.
Farm Information.
Yeah.
How about that?
Yeah. But that was back when L.A. was just, fruit orchards.
Yeah.
Many
because it started,
years ago.
what, in the late 20s?
Yeah, I mean, it was already movie town by the time.
That was even before Bill Handel.
I think Bill was there. I think he was the morning man. Let me see. On the Wikipedia entry for KFI, they have a whole... Started in 1922.
22, wow.
The history, yeah. I remember when I started working there, I read up on this. The U.S. government adopted regulations defining broadcast stations in 1921. 3 months later, KFI was licensed to Earl C. Anthony for operation on the 360-meter entertainment wavelength. Oh, it says the call letters were randomly assigned. But I think, really? Well, I think they used to say it stood for farm information. I don't know. Earl Anthony, trained at Cornell as an electrical engineer, was best known as the owner of a Packard automobile dealership. KFI was originally located at Anthony's home using a 50-watt transmitter he built personally on a kitchen table.
They've come a ways since then.
Come a long ways.
Like 10 years after the sinking of the Titanic.
That's right. If you put it in those terms, yeah. Huh. Anthony moved quickly to expand operations. Studios and transmitter moved to the top of the Packard dealership building, 10th and Hope in Los Angeles, with a $30,000 rooftop T antenna and a 500-watt Western Electric transmitter, the most powerful commercially available at this time.
When did you start with them?
Shortly after that. 2004. January 2004 was my first KFI show. But, I mean, that's not when I started in radio. That's just when I started at KFI.
Right.
Yeah, I've been continuously at KFI since 2004. 18 years.
Exciting.
That's amazing. That's freaking amazing. Thank you, Kay. Thank you, Robin Bertolucci.
Yeah.
Our good friend. You couldn't play these songs today. Wait a minute, we just did. Never mind. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. Thank you to our musical director. a deep cut from Professor Laura, our musical director. On we go to Heather. She's on the line from Kinderhook, my favorite town in Upper New York State in the Hudson River Valley. Hello, Heather.
Hi. Thank you for taking my call. It is a beautiful town.
It is.
Yeah.
We talked before, have we not?
We have talked before. I think you had a daughter who went to Bard, perhaps.
That's right.
You're familiar with the area?
You remember that, yes.
I do. Yeah, so thanks for taking my call. I have an iPad in my possession that is activation locked.
Oh, no.
It gets worse. I can't unlock it because it was given... This iPad, my friend asked me to help with this situation. My friend got the iPad from someone who didn't want it anymore, wasn't using it.
But neglected to remove it from Find My.
Oh, and it gets worse. And that someone is now deceased.
Okay. So you're out of luck. That iPad is unusable. The only way you can get that activation... So Apple started doing this early on with the iPhone. It was a prime target for phone thieves. People would get mugged for their iPhone. And Apple's response to this was to turn on this thing called activation lock, which meant essentially, and we should get the word out, by the way, to all iPhone thieves, or iPad thieves too, it's useless. You can steal it, but you can't do anything with it because of activation lock. The previous owner has to release it. Now, the only hope is if you have a receipt for it. So if the late owner, in his documentation or his records or when he handed it over, see, this seems unlikely since he forgot to unlock it anyway.
Unlikely.
Yeah. But if he handed you the receipt, then you can go to Apple. The problem is it's not in your name. So they're going to say, oh, you stole it, huh, from this guy. Yeah. So they're very finicky. They will not, without a receipt, without proof of ownership, they are not going to unlock that. They can. That's what's frustrating. They can. They know how. There's a way, but it's not available to you and me.
Okay, I got that. Now I do see, however, that there are a lot. It seems that there are a lot of third-party apps that claim that they can do it.
No.
Do you know anything about them?
Don't. Don't. They can't.
There are several. I don't know if I've never looked it up.
Yeah. No, it's a scam.
Yeah.
So you need either to, and this is important to remember when you have an iOS device, you need to remove it from Find My. And Apple tells you 100 times before you wipe the device. Make sure you remove it and to do that, you need your Apple account password. You need to be able to log in. And of course you can, if you knew the account holder's email, you can go to .apple.com, but then you got to prove they're very very finicky. Yeah. There is an activation lock web tool in the US, but in order to use it, you have to be the owner. You need proof of ownership. You need your data will be erased. They can't unlock a managed device, and your device can't be in lost mode. Again, all of this to prevent theft.
Yeah.
So, if you could prove your ownership, that's, then you could do it. But
yeah, it's I get it completely, and I appreciate Apple for taking.
I have an iPad.
For sure.
It's been sitting in my office because I can't bring to throw it out. An employee's iPad, somehow fell through the cracks when the employee left. We didn't know how to, and I just can't get into it, and there's nothing I can do because I guess we don't have the receipt anymore or whatever. I wouldn't throw it out. I'd bring it to Apple and say, look, I can't unlock this. They can unlock it, recondition it, sell it maybe, but you won't get any money for it.
Okay. Okay. Well, thanks. This is really just kind of symptomatic of what I think is a much bigger problem, which is, what is our digital afterlife? What happens?
Very good point.
With our digital footprint. I mean, it's a huge issue that no one cares for. People don't think about it. Don't put it in their wills.
No. And this is why you're using a password manager, which would simplify things if you did, because then almost all the password managers have a feature called emergency access or something like that. So I've set up my password manager so that if I pass suddenly, my wife can request access to it. And the way it works is there's a dead man switch, forgive the language, but they'll send an email to my address, the address associated with the password manager saying, hey, your designated recipient, your emergency contact says she wants in, that you're dead, are you? And if you don't respond, and you can set the time limit, by the way. You can say, well, if I don't respond in 5 days or a week or 3 weeks, then she gets access. So that's a reason to use a password manager and put everything in there, because now you have a vault. You could assign an emergency, or more than one if you want, which I do. I have several family members as emergency contacts, and then they can get into it. If he had done that, by the way, you'd have his Apple ID, and you'd be able to log into it, and you'd be able to activate it. So it all, the same thing, getting into financial, bank accounts and investment accounts, all of that stuff. So all I need to do is designate that person, and then the other thing I will do, and just like you, I'm going, I really ought to do this, is just a piece of paper I'll put in my desk drawer that says, in case of my death, here's the login to my computer, and here's my password manager login, and after that, they can get in everything. So yes, I agree. This is something we got to pay attention to.
Yep. Well,
sorry. You're a good, nice person to try to help.
No,
the word has clearly gone out throughout the Hudson River Valley. If you've got a problem, go to Heather in Kinderhook. She can help you.
Don't tell him that I just retired. I haven't convinced all of my clients that is the case. I'm working on it.
But this really shows how much this is needed, right? It baffles me. We got this incredibly complex technology, very useful, but so complex, and the companies aren't very good at helping people. What do you get? You go to a community college, take a class? I don't know. We don't have this kind of network of support, and we need it, to be honest. That's why I do this show.
Yeah, that's great.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks for trying, Heather. And yeah, don't fall for, you'll see a lot of these in every respect. Oh, we could crack it. Oh, yeah, give it to us. We could figure it out. No, because the first thing they're going to do is say, that'll be $199.99, please. I have yet to be shown by anybody that they can get into an activation-locked iOS device. I feel like, Harry Houdini. If you can prove, I'm not offering a cash prize, but as far as I know, and I've looked, there is no way around it. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. Okay, Rodney.
Yes, sir. By the way, I won't be here next Sunday.
No.
I'll be in beautiful Des Moines, Iowa. Well, I'll be traveling.
You're watching
to beautiful Des Moines,
the big
Iowa.
launch in Des Moines?
No, I'm going to a conference. They have an innovation conference every year. So I
saw
get to hang out with a couple of Apollo guys.
They're saying Artemis will be in May now.
Yes, maybe.
Maybe, yes, possibly.
Well, so they had to slide the rollout date, and then they have to do a wet dress rehearsals, where they tank it up and check everything. They think they got the engine controller problem solved. And then they've got, of course, there's limits to when they can launch because the alignments of the Earth and the Moon and so forth. But they've also got SpaceX and other activity going on at the other pad, which is 39A, which is just across from 39B, which is where Artemis will launch from. So there's a whole ballet they have to do. But it's mostly rocket delays. And just so it's said, this was originally slated for 2016. So we're a little late.
Oh, I had no idea.
What's a few more months? Yeah, it's
Holy
a rounding
cow.
error now,
Jeez.
Yeah.
Jeez Louise.
And, the podcast drops next Friday. I don't know if you have that in your notes.
We're making that public?
Yes, sir.
Yay! No, let's plug the hell out of it.
Happy news.
Yay!
We're having fun. And boy, what a team you've got. They are all over.
They're good, aren't they? Yeah.
Yeah, they really are.
They're good people.
After doing a podcast solo with, some help from KFI, but really it was mostly just posting and the occasional promo on the iHeart feed or something. This has been spectacular.
Yay. Well, let's hope we get a lot of response. They're giving you some ads, I think, right?
Yeah.
That's
so.
fantastic.
Certainly in social media. Yeah, no, you guys are all over it.
Yeah.
Not they, you.
No, I don't actually do anything. It's Lisa.
Well, I know, but
I have a deal with Lisa.
It's your empire.
You do all the work. I'll take all the money.
I like that.
Well, she hadn't really agreed to that. But anyway.
Now she knows. You just told her.
Whoops. No, we split it. We split it all 50-50. Well, no. See, that's the thing. We split the money 50-50. She gets 100% of the work. So it isn't really fair. And she knows it. That's all right.
You've got a good system.
I got to do my thing.
How to do that.
Somebody's got to do these shows. So.
Yeah.
It's time to talk space with Spaceman Rod Pyle, editor of the Ad Astra magazine from the National Space Society, space.nss.org. Also the author of many books, including First on the Moon, about the Apollo 11 moon landing, Space 2.0. And I'm proud to say, host of a brand new podcast which launches on Friday. It's This Week in Space.
Cue the Echoplex.
Congratulations, Rod. Rod Pyle.
Thank you.
You're co-hosting this with...
Thank you for putting it together.
Well, you mentioned you wanted to do this, and I said, well, I'd like to do it too. Yeah. If you want to be there, episode 0's there, which is just a teaser. But the first show will come out Friday. The website, twit.tv/TWIS. This Week in Space will take you there. Or you could search for, starting Friday, in your favorite podcast client, This Week in Space. And it might take a little while to get them in all the different players. We're pretty good about that. I think it's already up on iTunes and Google Podcasts and so forth.
It's on a bunch, yeah.
Yeah. This Week in Space. Tarek Malik will be your co-host from space.com.
He will.
Every
He'll
Friday.
Be pushing out some news about this on space.com this week. So
nice.
We're covered from all directions.
I want to get everybody, if you like Rod's appearances, and I get lots of fan mail for you, Rod.
Oh, good.
If you like Rod's appearances on this show, you'll love the podcast. I know you want to talk about how the Russian war on Ukraine is impacting space. But before we do that, I just want to mention, though, James Webb has reached another milestone and is really, at this point, is it safe to say, been flawless?
It's flying through these steps. So they've got the big alignment phases done for the mirrors. They were locked in place a month ago, and now they're aligning them. So I guess they're somewhat over halfway in terms of the overall alignment. So we now
yesterday they got all of the all of the light from that single dot in one place.
Well, so they had 18 fuzzy images. Now they've got 18 clear images. So what we saw was those images stacked artificially.
Okay.
So they still are 18 separate
So they're
images.
still
so what
steering
they're waiting
the
for,
the tiles.
Because remember, these things move in nanometers, so it takes a month to move it a quarter inch or something. But they are cooling down the near infrared camera, the near cam or NIRCam. And I think they've got another 3 to 6 weeks for that to reach operating temperature, and then they can have a unified image. And man, if that works, $10 billion well spent.
Well, and you can't they're 1 million kilometers out. You can't send a rescue mission to fix, as we did with the Hubble, to fix the lens. It's got to work.
Yeah, although, I occasionally I'll get a little bit of pushback on my Elon Musk fandom, but potentially a Starship could do that if it was refueled enough.
It'd be so expensive and so risky.
It would be expensive.
I don't
and risky,
think they're going to do that.
But he might just do it because he wants to go.
Yeah,
you never know.
Yeah, so. That's good news. Now some not so good news.
Yeah.
Of course, this war that Putin has inflicted on the Ukraine, tragedy for everybody. But it does make one wonder, Russia is very heavily involved in the International Space Station, aren't they?
Yeah, and other efforts. And we've already had, we saw after the annexation of Ukraine in 2014, we saw operations proceeding pretty well. The mission controls were still talking to each other here and in Russia, and the crews were getting along well on the space station. But on the ground, of course, we were, spitting at each other and not having a good time of it. This is, of course, much bigger. And again, we're talking about the spaceflight angle. This is not at all to diminish the deprivations and suffering that are going on in Ukraine. It's awful. But it's something that's being talked about at NASA and elsewhere because it's a big problem. So when the Soviet Union fell in 1991, we made overtures. We had been planning a space station with European partners in Japan. We said, hey, Russia, you've got these components that you've been building for your replacement for Mir, their earlier space station. Why don't you come join the party? And they said, okay. So they control the power unit, and they do the propulsion burns that reorient the thing into the proper orbit and keep it there. And they have a number of other orbits and docking ports and an airlock and so forth, other modules, and docking ports and so forth. And so their hardware is all over the station, and they control it, and that's a piece of their national territory, as our half is our national
it's not
territory.
international territory? It's Russia.
Yeah, it's Russia.
Oh, interesting.
So if they decide to uncouple and go away, that's a real problem, potentially the end of the station. Or if they decide to do some kind of scorched earth, okay, we're, and this is unlikely, I think. But if they did decide, okay, we're cutting the cables and, taking a hammer to the interior of this thing because we're angry at you, that would be bad. And that would be an early end of the space station. That could happen as early as, I suppose it could happen immediately, but the agreement on their end isn't solid past 2025. So while we're talking about keeping up till 2030, they've been dragging their feet a bit on verifying their participation. So, that's questionable. But there's other stuff too. We already know that China and Russia have been talking about building their own moon base as sort of a pushback on the U.S. Artemis program with our European and Asian partners. So there's that split already. But these sanctions also, as you've, I think, been talking about, are going to really impact their technological imports. That cripples an already challenged space program. Their budget's gotten smaller and smaller over the last few years. We depend on them for cargo deliveries. We, as I said, depend on them for their Progress modules to go up and reposition the ISS to keep it in proper orbit. So while SpaceX could pick up that slack, I think, in pretty short order, it would represent a major change. And
now NASA says it's going to be business as usual.
Yeah, well, they have to, right?
Right. We're not going to issue sanctions against the space station.
No, but we're sanctioning a lot of their technology imports, and that's hardware
they may
use
retaliate
to build their space.
Yeah.
Well, and those go into their spacecraft. There's a lot of that stuff that they don't make because they don't have to. They've just recently pulled their people out of French Guiana, which is where European Space Agency and France have their launch facility, and Soyuz had a launch facility there, so they're pulling away from that. And, in kind of smaller bits, there's Russian and Ukrainian components in some of the products built by Northrop Grumman and other contractors here, including rocket engines. Although, as I understand it, most of that inventory is already on U.S. soil, but there's still bits that we want. So, there's a lot going on here, a lot of moving parts, and we're going to have to see what happens to this trade space.
There has been a little sword rattling. Dmitry Rogozin, who's the director of Roscosmos.
And I was hoping you'd read these quotes because you do them so much better.
He says, "Do you want to destroy our cooperation on the ISS?" He tweeted in Russian, but this is my best Russian. "If you block cooperation with us, who will save the ISS from uncontrolled deorbiting and falling into the United States or Europe? There is also option of dropping a 500-ton structure to India and China." So there's a lot of, it's very, Putin also threatened the use of atomic weapons. There's a lot of saber rattling coming out of Russia right now, which does not endear them to me or probably anybody in the West.
I don't think they're endearing themselves to anybody right now, except possibly the Russian population. Ruzigin also went on to say to blame, quote, talented U.S. businessmen for all the space debris.
Oh, please.
This is coming from the guys who just blew up a satellite, right?
Threatening
and then he said,
our own astronauts.
The U.S. has illness Alzheimer's when it comes to space, which I thought was so
He says,
so out there.
There is also option of dropping 500-ton structure to India and China. Do you want to threaten them with such a prospect? The ISS does not fly over Russia, so the risks are all yours. Right. Are you ready for it? But he's like, this is like a heavy out of a Quentin Tarantino movie.
Or a bad James Bond.
Or James Bond. Yeah. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. Thank you, Rod.
Thank you.
Is this guy a political hack and somebody we can ignore? Is he? He's obviously Putin's man.
Well, he's the head of their space program, so he's really not somebody you can. But this is the same guy that said, what? You're not going to use our Soyuz capsules. You're going to buy some trampolines to get to your space station.
So nitwit.
He's been a big mouth and a hot.
These guys are basically mobsters. It would be a shame if anything were to happen to China or India.
To your space station.
If anything were to happen, it would be shame.
Well, they could always go back to using vacuum tubes on their spacecraft. They were kind of the last people to do that. Did you already talk about Elon and the Starlink connection?
I
with Ukraine?
did, and what I said we talked about with Sam is, Elon has so muddied the waters with previous nonsense tweets. I don't know. He said he was sending ventilators. And it was old burnout CPAP machines. So I don't trust whatever Elon says. And it's too bad because you know what? This may be legitimate and he may be doing a wonderful thing, but he's muddied the waters. You don't know. You can't trust him.
In this case, I guess what gives me some hope is that he's talking about shipping them Starlink base stations, which he's got them, right? So it's just getting them into Ukraine. I guess the question is, and what I don't know, I was actually texting Tariq to see if he knew, to find out if he has to actually retask any of these satellites, the Starlink satellites, into new orbits to give Ukraine more coverage, or if they're already sufficiently dense there for that to occur. But I mean, anything's helpful when you've had your internet.
So he says we're sending more terminals. That's the base station, the terminals?
Yeah. Okay. It's the little rectilinear, rectenna, I think they call it. So kind of the dish. Yeah.
All right. If Russia were really determined to knock out the internet in Ukraine, I think that would be a pretty soft target for them. So,
I think so, but you can't knock out satellites, right? I mean, they could try.
Yeah, but the terminals you can easily knock out.
You can, and what's interesting, both China and Russia have been testing abilities to laser dazzle and take down satellites.
Oh, wow.
But Elon has so many of them, and they're moving so quickly in these low orbits that they'd be really hard to get at. It's easy to target a geosynchronous satellite because it's just sitting in one spot, right? So when you got things whizzing overhead every 90 minutes, you'd have to target a lot of satellites. So he could end up, playing a heavy role in national security if he was taken into that.
And I want to be clear. I think I know many Russians. The people of Russia are good people.
And I don't think they're behind this.
They're not behind this. This is the madman in charge.
And I didn't realize
cronies.
My son called me this morning, and of course, who knows with the news, you get all kinds of stories, but one of the stories coming out was that the troops, that had been captured or were being interviewed were saying, they told us we were just on exercises. The next thing you know, we're invading
I feel
Ukraine.
for them. You saw one of the teenager crying on the steps.
They're kids.
They're kids. It's so sad.
Kids.
But that's
And
always the case.
Ukrainians-
War is not, but it's just a horrific thing. And anybody who would just launch a war for no good reason, it's as evil as you can get.
Well, it is, and I have to sympathize a little bit. If you kind of abstract yourself and put yourself in his mind, having been isolated for the last couple of years as much as he is, NATO encroachment could be scary if you're in his Russian mindset.
I understand, but
at the same time, you see these images of Ukrainian housewives and daughters filling up Molotov cocktails like it's 1944 again.
Yeah, it's just
amazing.
All right, Rod, have a good one.
Thank you.
Take care.
Very good to see you.
Nice
Bye-bye.
to see you as always. Again, thank you for letting me be your personal tech guy this weekend. I love doing it. I'm glad you're here to let me do it. And thanks, of course, to my helpers, the little elves who help keep this show on the air. Professor Laura, our musical director, and of course Kim Schaffer, our phone angel. And I can't really do a full credit, Laura, because there's other people at the knock, and there's all the people who work hard to make this show happen. I appreciate all of you, even if I.
No, it's just me.
Oh, it's just you? Oh, never mind.
Yes. No, I'm just kidding.
There's people in the knock, aren't there? I don't know who they are, but I love you, man. I love you. But of course. Most importantly, thanks to you for listening, because without you, it'd be just me talking to myself, and nobody wants that. So thank you, as always, for letting me do this. Back to the phones we go. Last segment of the show for the weekend. Tom on the line from Anchorage, Alaska. Hi, Tom.
Hello.
Welcome.
First time I've ever called a radio show, so I'm really nervous.
Oh, there's no need to be nervous, Tom. It's just you and me. If anybody were listening, well, I'd be nervous too. But it's just the two of us.
I'm glad you
don't worry about it. Yeah.
You were my last-ditch effort because the manufacturer of my Sharp 60-inch TV, it's an LC60, liquid crystal 60-inch.
Nice.
I don't know. I lose track of time, how long ago I bought it. I would say maybe 7 years. The TV works great. No problems with it whatsoever. And I'm trying to remember because I have a poor memory. But the factory remote quit working at one point. I think I got it working by splitting the case because you get dust under the buttons, whatever. I don't remember.
Wow.
I got it working. You check the batteries off. So I did everything. And at one point it quit working. And I finally bought, here's the thing. I bought a really cheap GE universal remote.
Oh, that's a clever idea. Yeah.
Used that for the longest time. The only thing is it doesn't provide all the functions of that big Sharp TV Aquas. It's an Aquas TV remote, but it does the power and the channel and the volume. That's it. And it's kind of
you probably could program it to do more, but without the working original, it's a little tricky. You can't teach it. There are a couple of choices here. There are third parties that sell replacement remotes. I'm looking at a replacement remote for the LC60 from a company called Just Fine. They're probably out of China. $11.45 on Amazon.
Well, there's more things to tell you that, like I said, you're a last-ditch effort, and I expected the manufacturer to figure this thing out, and they didn't. And so anyway.
Sharp also sells replacement remotes. You can get one from Walmart. So is there more than just the remote not working?
Well, no. The TV works fine, and the buttons on the TV works fine, and the universal remote works.
Oh, good.
Okay, so anyway, what happened was our original remote that was working for a long time, after it quit working, I called Sharp, and I paid like $40, whatever, for a new identical Sharp remote.
Oh, good. Okay.
And
okay.
I knew as soon as I got it out of the box, and I'm a mechanic, so I tested the batteries before I put them in, and I was excited. I knew that new remote would work, and guess what? It did not.
Oh.
So
now you're thinking it's not the remote that's the problem.
Well, then I called them back and I told them it's not working. And then at one point, I'm sorry, I've been working so many hours. I remembered, wait a minute, like last year I had that universal remote. So I dug it out and it was covered in dust, cleaned it up, and I used it. And guess what? It works every time to turn the TV off and on, change the channels, change the volume, and the brand new remote does not work. Then I called them back about it, told them the new remote doesn't work, and then they ran me through all the test procedures of turning the TV off, turning it on, doing this, doing that, the remote, on and on and on. I'm like, I've done that already, but okay, just tell me what to do. I'll do it again. So the new remote did not work, and so then they had me do a test.
I only have a couple minutes left. Can you let's get to the bottom line. What do you need? What's not working? What do you need?
Well, the second remote they just mailed me does not work either, and they had me do that IR test with your phone.
Yeah.
Using your camera, which I've never heard of before.
Yeah.
Just to tell that it works.
You can see the IR blinking, yeah.
Yes, and it works, and both remotes, new ones, don't work. Why would two new remotes not work, but the old Universal GE not work? Oh, let me throw one more thing out. I actually threw batteries in while I was on hold for you, and they're working now.
That's why we put you on hold, by the way, because most of the time people fix the problem while they're waiting. Wait a minute. The new ones work now?
They just worked as of 15 minutes ago, and they didn't work for 1 week. But the Universal works all the time.
Huh. It does sound like there's something maybe wrong with the IR receiver on the TV, that it's maybe intermittent. That's as you know, as a mechanic, the worst possible problem is an intermittent problem because it doesn't happen all the time.
Well, the Universal uses the same frequency, so why does that work every time, but the new ones don't? That's what I was thinking. The Universal should have the same problem.
Might have a stronger signal, might be a brighter IR light in it. It's there is a company, they've been discontinued, but Logitech for the longest time made the Harmony remotes. One of the advantages of the Harmonies is you don't have to program them. I would look at the Harmony database and see if it has that Sharp LC60 TV in it. Because if it does, then their remote will do every function that your other remote does, because it doesn't have to be programmed. It actually, somebody's taken the time over the years to get that to work. I don't know why one remote works and one doesn't. Maybe it's brighter. I don't know. I'm sorry that I'm your only hope. When did you buy this TV? I mean, the LC60, maybe it's time for a new TV. I hate to buy a new TV because the remote doesn't work, don't you? But TVs have gotten a lot better in the intervening years. I just don't know. I can't help you. Can't help you. Jim on the line from Glendale, California. Hello, Jim. Leo Laporte, the tech guy.
Hi, how you doing? I got a quick question for you. I'm the same person that called you before. I'm an Android person, not an Apple person. You probably
Yes, I love that. I remember that. Yes.
All right, I've got an S21, which is great, fine, and I've got my service through Pure Talk now.
Okay.
I also got one of the free government phones that you can get when you're unemployed, which I am, and that SIM card is removable. I want to use that SIM card in my old Samsung Galaxy Note 4, which is far superior phone than the phone that I got for free. So I'd have it as a backup phone, but I don't want to be exposed, vulnerable, because I'm not sure if the Note 4's software is still.
It's not. It's far out of date. So there's two different kinds of software that you care about with an Android device. The Android version, which currently is 12, that's probably, what is the version, 8, 9? You don't know, but you can check in the settings.
You mean on my phone?
On the old phone, the 4 that you wanted, the Note 4 you want to use.
Well, let me say something else real quick before you go further. A couple of months ago, I did root this phone, and I did custom recovery. However, I have not put in any custom ROM yet, and I was really wanting to find out what the safest ROM to use would be for this purpose.
So there are two that I like. Lineage is one. That's been around for the longest time. It's a reliable source, and it will work pretty much as a generic Google phone. lineageos.org. The other one is a security-focused ROM called Calyx, Calyx OS. And that one is similar but more focused on security. And you're right, using either of those will be more secure than the unupdated and unupdatable Android in that current Note 4. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. Have a great Geek Week. But Lineage or Calyx, either one would be a good choice. Now, before you do this, what I would do, Jim, is go to xda-developers.com. Are you familiar with the XDA developers site?
Yeah, it's been a while since I've been there, but yes.
That's your, much more than me, definitive resource. And what you can do is enter that exact model number of that note. And remember that there are multiple models of that same note. And there will be a forum thread, and there'll be a pinned entry on that for how to root it, what ROMs you can put on it, and they will have some recommendations. And there may be other ROMs. I'm sure there are. There's usually a lot of different ROMs you can choose from. But the two that I know and trust are Calyx and Lineage. Lineage is renamed. I can't remember the original name, but it's the old ROM that everybody used for years.
Is it Cyanogen mod?
Cyanogen, that's the one.
Okay.
And it's just...
I've rooted a phone. It's been probably 5 years since I've done that, so I'm going to have to scratch my head to remember how to do it. But I was just thinking that it would be safer to do that.
Absolutely.
Even the free phone they gave me has got very old software on it.
Yeah. So what I was going to, and you know this then, say is that you've got the Android version. That's one thing. The other more important thing is the monthly security updates, and you're going to be way behind on both of those. So Lineage and Calyx are the most professional. They're the least hobbyist focused. Lineage has been around, as you know, forever. And so I don't know why they rebranded it, but they did. It's fantastic. And then Calyx is very much more focused on security. But as I said, I would, before you do anything, look at the thread about that exact model on XDA developers, because if there are any caveats about rooting it, Samsung in that time frame had this thing called Triangle Protect, where they would break the phone if you tried to root it, and there are ways around it.
Right now, when I boot the phone, it after it's been rooted, it still shows the warning at the top, the warning bit. Avoided, but it still works.
Yeah. So that triangle is something you want to avoid. But there are ways to get rid of it. So all of that's at XDA developers. And by now, because it's such an old phone, that's the good news on that is there will be all sorts of great ways to fix this thing, because people have been banging on it for so long. And frankly, that Note 4 is a classic. So there'll be a lot of people who are, doing everything they can to keep it up to date.
Yeah. Well, I just thought it would be safer and practical. I mean, I'm just going to use it as a backup phone. I might occasionally use it to get some information off the internet, but I didn't want to be vulnerable, especially if I sign into my Google account to update, have the app.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. And that's why I think Lineage and Calyx are good choices because, they're well respected and well known. And I think they're going to be a lot less likely to have weirdnesses in them. But again, you can't beat XDA developers. Those are people who really know what they're doing, and they've been very careful about, how to get around things like the triangle alert and things like that.
Well, I appreciate the information.
Sure. I think you're doing the right thing. That's a great phone. The only thing you're missing is the good cameras now. But The Note 4 had replaceable battery, right? And it had.
That's right.
It has so many nice. It had a headphone jack. You're making me. I have a Note 4 in my drawer somewhere. You make me want to go back and recover it myself.
I hadn't used it in years, but when I put the SIM in there and tried the service, and it's T-Mobile is one of the providers for this free phone service, and it even had the high quality sound. I'm like, wow, this is great. Why not use it in a good phone?
Nice.
Old.
Make sure it supports LTE. Otherwise,
yeah, it does.
Good.
It does.
Good.
It's all good. All right. I appreciate your help, and I got more questions for you, but I'll save them for next time.
Okay, Jim. Thanks. Take care.
Good one. Thank you.
Bye. Well, that's it for the Tech Guy Show for today. Thank you so much for being here. And don't forget, TWiT, TWiT. It stands for This Week in Tech, and you'll find it at twit.tv, including the podcasts for this show. We talk about Windows on Windows Weekly, Macintosh on Mac Break Weekly, iPads, iPhones, Apple Watches on iOS Today, security on Security Now. I mean, I can go on and on and on. And, of course, the big show every Sunday afternoon, This Week in Tech. You'll find it all at twit.tv. And I'll be back next week with another great Tech Guys show. Thanks for joining me. We'll see you next time.